Greetings and aloha. What's going on? It's Mike's from LiveMyAssOff.com. Oh, happy Wednesday all over your body, and hello from the Big Mango, Bangkok, Thailand. Glad to have you along for the ride. And it is approximately 4:45 Bangkok time, PM. And at the suggestion and request of one of you guys from, I either believe the UK or Europe or something like that, about, hey, how about some live streams when it's a little bit more convenient for us, dude? And I thought, you know what? That is an outstanding idea, which is why, greetings, Germany. How you doing, man? Hope you're awesome. Saw that countdown before. Yeah, it's so generic, right? Like, you know, everyone who's using StreamYard. Oh my God, William, good to see you, buddy. I'm on Facebook and YouTube and a couple of other new platforms actually that I'm trying out and trying to be certainly a promoter for. Not the least of which is Africa, AFFREECA. TV, which is pretty popular in Korea and also in China. So I'm trying a couple of those things. I'm on Twitch, and I am on. I'm also on Periscope, which is basically Twitter. And so wherever you're watching and wherever you're listening or that sort of thing, or if you're watching on the replay, then thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. It's always good to hang out with you guys. And as I mentioned before, spoiler alert, you keep me sane. And so I blame you all for my success. So thanks so much for that. So anyway, so I'm just making sure that I'm going everywhere. And as it turns out, I am. And now we are also officially, there we go, on Twitter. So anyway, happy Wednesday. And it's a really nice day out. And I'm going to prove it to you because I'm going to show you some of the pigeon cam. I got a new... I'm not quite sure. Well, there's sort of the brand name, which is the octopus or something. I've heard it called a number of different things. But at the end of the day, it's basically a tripod, but the legs are like flexible, and it's not the one that have like the balls on it. Kind of. This one is like the legs are almost. It's almost like they're made out of just like a really, really tough rubber, and you can wrap them around everything. Anyway, so that made it a lot easier for me to go all pigeon cam on you guys. And so I thought I might show you down there. We actually have the world's largest pigeons. They actually have 2 legs, and you can see them there. They're swimming in the kiddie pool, where, of course, we don't hang out. We hang out at the Cool Kids table, ladies and gentlemen. So with that, hey, welcome to the Cool Kids table. Glad you guys are hanging out with me, that's for sure. And if you'd like to, please buy me a smoothie. If not, awesome. I'll buy you one when you guys end up coming here to Bangkok, because it would be so cool to be able to hang out with you guys. So anyway, so that's what we got going on outside. It's a beautiful day here in Bangkok. And the good news is that we're on a trajectory, I would submit, to allow people to come over here as tourists. We are not anywhere near that happening this weekend. However, it is definitely something that is going to be available. Many people have been talking about, many other vloggers and that sort of thing, about the whole October 1st. You know, they're going to allow some people to come into Phuket. Those people will basically be coming over here on their own charter planes or their own private jets. International flights are not scheduled. And so you have to have, you know, all of the things that we all know that you have to have. So you have to have the insurance, you have to have, you know, fit to fly, you have to have certificate of entry, you have to have all, and you have to stay for a minimum of 30 days. None of this, oh yeah, you got to get out of here because you're a tourist. No. The expectation is you stay at least 30 days. 2-week quarantine in what I would label is pretty expensive resorts down in Phuket if you're coming in that way. But anyway, it's an option. And like I said, it's a trajectory in the right direction. So I'll take it. So that's really good to see you. Thank you guys so much for coming by. Greetings and aloha, Aztec. A couple of cool videos, actually, that Aztec has been posting, or has posted recently on his channel. Mr. Mitch, always great to see you, my friend. What's the temperature and wind speed? The temperature is, because I actually just sent a picture of it to Gracie because we were comparing temperatures. Pretty romantic, right? I mean, I like to keep, you know, got to keep the spice in the relationship. So you got to compare temperatures where you are. Right now, it is 97 degrees. All of this, of course, is in Fahrenheit. But it feels like 106 because of the humididad. And so it's going to be down to a low of 79, which is about as low as I'm willing to accept. 80 degrees is pretty much my floor. I don't like to go a whole lot. I have zero ceiling, let's be clear, on temperature. I'm a big fan of that. The wind is probably out of the southwest at about 6 knots, and you are live from the Big Mango, baby. So thanks, Bill. I appreciate that. Appreciate the encouragement on the weather reports. I'm glad you're good, Dave. That's awesome. I know that Dave got his paperwork, and he is probably, well, I know he is. He is that one step closer to being married. Awesome, buddy. Aztec, so stoked that you say hi to everybody. I'm so stoked that everybody does, but that's really cool, man. You guys are great. And that's why it's the cool kids table. Isn't that right? Okay, good. I'm not cool. I just hang over here in the corner. Oh, no way, buddy. Without you. It is absolutely cool. And ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here is who maybe you'll thank, at least I'm thanking him, for the recommendation, the suggestion that we do a live stream at this time of day, which of course is, afternoon time here in Bangkok, in Thailand. But it is approximately 10:51 GMT. And so I believe that makes it, let's see, what is it, 5 p.m.? Over in Berlin, and let's see, probably 8, almost 8 p.m. I'm thinking in Sydney. So, indeed, yes. Thank you so much for the laughs. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the hugs. Of course, you're cool enough for a cool kids table, dude. Let me tell you what, right now. Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think it's cool, Dave? William. Anyway, so what have I been doing? So here's the cool thing is that I like to think that the regular live streams that Jeremy and I are doing on Sundays are enjoyable for you. I hope they are. And yes, it's an hour ahead, almost 6 p.m. in the Philippines, which means Gracie is likely to have probably closed down her shop, and she's probably heading home, and she is probably going to be making dinner very shortly. So that'll be kind of cool. She sent me a video earlier, but for the most part, the internet there is not great. So unfortunately, she's not joining the live stream right now. 3 a.m., Mr. Mitch, 3 a.m. Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was noontime. Thank you, Mariano. And so this is kind of cool, and I'll be curious to see how many people watch now live as well as later on. Because this is, it's 6 a.m. on the East Coast. And so therefore, people getting up on a Wednesday, on a Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. I mean, that's not unheard of. But West Coast, we're looking at basically 3 in the morning. So the chances of people still being up, if you're way cool like Mitch, then yes, of course you're up. But we'll see how many other people stop by. That's pretty good. This tells me I got about 9. It looks like it was flickering back and forth between 9 and 10 watching, which is totally awesome. I actually cannot see the thumbs up in StreamYard, so I will allow you guys to remind me as well as the team how we're doing for thumbs up. So, oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, +8 GMT. We are, what are we over here in Thailand? Well, Perth is 6-1. Yeah, so we're +7. That's right. I forgot about that. And noontime over there in Germany. So that's awesome, Mariano. And again, Tim, thank you so much for the recommendation. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you too, William. Big time. So I had the opportunity, as you may have seen last week, to go to Koh Phangan, which I believe is how you pronounce it. I thought you pronounced the G. But segue into the next little project that I'm working on, which is the Bangkok Strange podcast. Now, the Bangkok Strange podcast was 100% podcast, 100% audio for the first, I think it was 10 episodes for the sake of argument. I think 10, 11, something like that. And so and they've been wildly successful, and you can get it, of course, on iTunes and the many places you get podcasts, right? And so Dana's like, hey, would you like to be the co-host, which I was honored by. And Dana's a really good buddy. And so we have a little bit of synergy on the microphone, as they say. And so he and I sort of, will blather for hours, really. And, every time we're somewhere, I'm like, dude, why aren't we recording this right now? Like, this is actually, it's entertaining I would think, but it's also like sort of interesting content, and it's relevant to Bangkok, right? So anyway, so the Bangkok Strange podcast, that's the other thing that I was doing. And let's see. So Monday, I had my appointment at the Canadian Embassy, and then Tuesday, Dana and I, we started out with a live stream, and then we did a couple of more podcasts. And then basically about 10 hours ago, about 20 hours ago, the next installment from the Bangkok Strange podcast, which was our interview with Tony Huge, or Anthony Hughes. But Dr. Tony Huge, arguably fairly controversial kind of guy that's down in Pattaya. And so anyway, he was a really awesome guy. Great interview. It's a little long, but it's pretty good. You know, if you're just going to download a podcast, for example, put it in the headphones, turn it on and off. I think it's a pretty cool interview. We had a great time doing it. And our next coming podcast on the Bangkok podcast will be us, or not on the Bangkok podcast, but Bangkok Strange, rather. I apologize. The Bangkok podcast actually is one that I really, really respect. Those guys do a great job. They're very polished. They're very appropriate, and they're very targeted on their topic, and they really stick to it. They're like PBS. They're like the BBC of podcasts. And Dana and I are like the Mike and Dana of podcasts. And so we are Bangkok Strange. Anyway, so Bangkok Strange, that we'll have another, we'll likely have another live stream next week. And then we'll also have another podcast that drops at the end or the middle of probably next week. So that's cool. I saw that if you came over for that, I really appreciate that. Aztec, I think you were one of them. And I think that was, I think you also brought some other people over with you, Bruce. So I really appreciate that. And it was really fun. So, and there was a couple of technical glitches, which, as you might guess, if you know me that really pissed me off because he's got $500, $600, $700 worth of audio gear just sitting on that desk. And he didn't connect the microphones to the laptop. He didn't choose it correctly. And so we're sitting there talking into $400 worth of gear. And the whole podcast was picked up by the microphone, like on the top of his MacBook Pro. I'm like, oh my God, dude, how many engineers does it take to screw in a light bulb? You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of, that was kind of a slap in the face. We were like, yeah, we probably should test this a little bit better. And it's like, yeah, tell me about it. But, that's what it's all about, right? Learning and having fun along the way. That's kind of what I do. And so here's what's an interesting thing too. I'm glad it's out loud, bitch. I'm glad you're laughing out loud. But you also have a factor in the day of the week too. Some days are more active than others for some reason. Agreed, yeah. And I think that I don't remember which one that is. And it's a day. When you're saying that, you mean back east, or do you mean here, or meaning the east coast of the U.S.? Because Friday mornings, right there. I mean, there's all these strategies. Like you want to basically get it there late at night. Long after they've left the office, essentially, so that they won't be just, have the chance to even open it. But you want it to be there so it's like one of the first few emails in their inbox kind of thing when they get there the following morning. And then the majority of them will, the majority of people will always watch it at lunchtime. Who knows? So there's some of that chatter. But then additionally, it's like, okay, yeah, but that was all pre-COVID data, right? So who knows? So anyway, what does everyone think of the proposal for tourists to come back to Phuket October 1st? Let's absolutely talk about that because, again, it's a finite subset of tourists, right? I mean, and it's not like you're cruising over here on an Air Asia flight. Those aren't coming in and out. So anyway, so it's, and I can understand why they're doing the subset that they are. I mean, they're doing a controlled group, quite frankly. Again, I really think that the way that Thailand is handling this is ridiculously appropriate. I think they're doing a great job. I hope that they're a model for other countries. I mean, you can't turn back time where, the U.S. only had 60 deaths and 3,600 infected cases. I mean, that's not possible, but, maybe they'll be doing some analysis over here and see what happened. Now, I will always argue that one of the main reasons, quite frankly, that they were successful is that this Thailand is filled with Thais. You're not like, French Thai, you're not Italian Thai, you're not Mexican Thai. I mean, but in the United States, you're Mexican American, you're African American, you're Italian American, you're Native American, and all that. So there's all these different sort of groups and different cultures and different societal norms, different religions, different beliefs, that sort of thing. Whereas over here, I mean, it's decreased a little, like from the 100% basically that it was, of course. And then when I first started coming over here, it was about 94% Buddhist, I believe. But it's certainly no lower than 90% of the entire population here in Thailand is Buddhist. There's a lot more Muslims now that people practicing Islam down in kind of like the southern area, and you'll see them wearing the And in fact, it's interesting because I think that there's more females that are practicing it down there. And I don't know that for a fact, but it just seemed that was like my impression. Rob has always told me that Kamala apparently got the highest population of Muslims in Thailand. And I believe that was the statistic that he shared, but I can't completely remember. But the point is that Phuket is going to be this test bed. And I understand why they do it, because they were also successful in the past with being able to sort of contain people. And so, like, at the bridge, or obviously at the airport, but at the bridge, they're just like, look, you're not going to the next province. Like, you have to have this, you have to have this. Yes, we're going to take your temperature, mask on, that sort of thing. But they were able to say, look, we were able to keep people here on the island, and they couldn't just all leave by, bus and take COVID with them, basically. So anyway, I think it's a great idea. And again, I hope that it is a successful model. And again, don't forget, just because, the other nice thing I think I've highlighted in the past is I think that they're sort of open to there being new cases coming in. Okay. I mean, yes, there's a statistic, there's been no new domestic cases. And they always sort of highlight the fact, and, it's clarity, right? Saying, hey, look at, the only reason we have new cases is because people flew in. Like, this clown came in and then he started walking around Egypt, whatever that nonsense was, but anyway, so I think they've got this pretty good test bed. And again, it is people that have means, for sure. It is certainly not backpackers, and nor is it even, travelers like myself. In the sense that, of course, I'm a long stay guy, right? I mean, I'm a tourist visa guy. I'm not a tourist visa guy. I apologize. I'm a retirement visa guy. And, my plan is to stay here. And of course, I pollute the economy with my money just living here in Bangkok. But then, of course, I'm also traveling, as you guys have seen. And so I'm helping, that, but in a very, very small amount. So anyway, so hopefully this will kick it up a notch, as they say. And who knows how many they're going to bring in. I know that there was this limit of sort of like 200 people a day coming back in as being repatriated, right? And I don't know whether there's a limit to that. I haven't read a whole lot of it. As you guys probably know, I don't watch a whole lot of the news. I do, in fact, watch a couple of YouTube channels regularly. You've heard Jeremy and I mention Benjamin Hart over at Integrity Legal. And Ben is a great guy. Ben has helped me out, and he's done legal things for me, as well as just sort of, I've been in his office, and we just sort of chat about, the future prospects of business in Thailand and how Thailand 4.0 is going, and, the Eastern Economic Corridor, like as part of Thailand 4.0, how that's going to expand. Speaking of which, if you don't know, the newer highway that actually is heading down towards Pattaya was opened the other day by the Prime Minister. Now, it isn't complete, right? But they're like on there. And I believe the completion date is 2027. I may be mistaken. I may be mistaking that date in my mind, 2027, with the day they believe they will have the trains done going all the way down to Utapao. But I don't know whether that. Regardless, I mean, this is future stuff. So, I mean, it could change anyway along the way. But I'm just sort of giving you sort of the future. But to that point, as far as Phuket goes, Bangkok Strange, Dana and Mike for a very well, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. I know that the audio, certainly from my perspective, is what we refer to as horrible. So that was a little bit disappointing. Yes, basically. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yeah, the Mike nor the Dana were not plugged in, and that was thank you, Bill. Thank you so much, William. I really appreciate it, buddy. Mike's a percentage of men follow your channel as opposed to females per analytics. So basically, I'm looking at about 90% males. I also get I get about 10%. Sorry, I get about 80% from the U.S. I get another 10% from Thailand, and then I get another 10% from India, who listen via the translation that Google does for them in Hindi. And I thought that was sort of interesting. So with any luck, because I mean, hey, look at me, I'm 1 in a billion. So I'm viable, I think, for the Indian market. So we'll see what I can do over there. That was the other reason too why I wanted to go to africatv.com, because I wanted to, I'm a huge fan of South Korea or Korea. But yes, the southern one. And I definitely want to get over there, of course, when it's warm. I'm a big fan of Taiwan too, but I'm not going there in December. It was chill. It was chilly enough when I used to have to transit through there in like November when raining. And I said, no. So that's not going to happen. But we have one chick watching from Facebook. Michelle, was it? Oh, right now? Oh, do you mean Michelle who, oh, you mean Missy? My friend Missy from Oregon? Yeah, it's about 3:05 a.m. in Oregon right now, so I don't think she's going to be tuning in. But yes, so Missy was the one that used to come by more regularly. And then Teresa also, she's from San Diego. She would come by. So I think maybe those are the folks that you're talking about. Yes, it is. It's incredibly cool, sir. And then there's, of course, Gracie, who stops by. I am just really excited to see this one. You guys remember him? Hey, guys, Thailand 4.0 will take the Thai stock market to the best performing market in the world for 3 or more years once it's up and running. I do not disagree with it being outstanding. Best performing market in the world. Who knows, right? I mean, by the time Thailand 4.0, that engine starts going regularly. And if you guys don't know what he's talking about, if you're interested in at all in sort of like an entrepreneurial culture, if you're sort of interested in sort of, I mean, many societies do this, right? They go from like wanting to be farmers to being like producers of like things, and then they go into like the innovation. So in other words, yes, they're farming, and then they go into basically being the warehouse of the whole China, right? And so that they're making things for like other countries, and then they export. Okay. And then now what they're trying to do is they're trying to focus on, okay, well, we're going to be innovating here. Like they basically, look at everywhere in the world that has any degree of technology and any degree of ability to generate, to take an angel investor's money and 1,000x it, right? I mean, the fantasy is that, you're going to be the Valley. And if you don't know, last year actually was the first year where the amount of angel and venture, so it might not be angel, venture capital investment from China was equal to the amount of venture capital that was invested in the Valley. And that's Silicon Valley is what I'm talking about. So San Jose, San Francisco, Milpitas, Palo Alto, that sort of thing, that whole sort of area there where arguably the world sort of looks to for, okay, so like what are the trends that are happening there? Are people really into solid state storage, or are they looking at holographic sort of things? How are the electric car markets? Is it more of an electric car market, or is it more of a lithium ion battery market? What are we going, oh my God, 5G? Like, how is that like leading the charge? If you come up with an app that only runs on a 5G phone, are you like the next entrepreneurial, sort of mountaintop that everyone's going to be looking at? So anyway, that's basically the transition it's having here. I encourage you to actually just Google Thailand 4.0, as is on the screen there. There's a very, two things. One, Google it, yes. And probably within the top 10, you'll get to the point where it's like their website. But there's this pretty cool PDF like graphic. It's usually like one page. And it talks about sort of like I don't know, sort of the tenets of what they're going to do. Like, in other words, they're going to have this physical, location, right? So, and that's referred to as the Eastern Economic Corridor. And that is essentially a huge plot of land, if you will, southeast of Bangkok, down towards the Chonburi province. And they're going to be yanking a ton of glass in there, meaning, fiber basically for the internet. They're going to be pulling a ton more in there. They're going to be putting in a bunch of like industrial parks basically. And so they're going to have, they're going to have like a digital community. They're going to have a digital economy. They're going to have like digital living. And so they've done a lot of work to really sort of get an idea behind the marketing of this. Now I'm waiting, as maybe Richard is too, for them to really get some follow through on this. Now, they work closely with BOI, which is the Board of Investment. The Board of Investment here has a charge to basically bring in new technology, but additionally to really support technology and other things, fintech and medical and all this, agricultural tech, quite frankly. And here's what's interesting. I have never been in a mall in any other country, and I've only been to like another 20, right? But for the most part, I've never been in a mall where they have like the DJI store, right? And so they have, they have the drones, and then they also have like camera fittings and then they also have, but for the most part, let's say the drone store. And I've never been in a drone store in any other mall. where you can get a drone that is this like about the half the size of my couch, and it's got containers in it that you fill with, say, insecticide, for example, and it's got GPS in it, and it basically is autonomous, and it flies over your farm, and it basically, takes care of like taking care of something. And so that's really awesome, right? And so anyway, so that's another sort of technology focus that they're trying to do. If you don't know, this may not be the case today, but I know that recently, like let's say in the last 2 years, one of the statistics that I read actually, was that Thailand produced 12% of the world's tires. They may have done less since I heard that statistic, and China may have again, increased their market share. But in Chonburi, I talked to this one woman, and she worked at a tire manufacturer factory, basically a vulcanization plant, right? And so we were chatting, whatever, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta go. We get this big order from BF Goodrich," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. So you're a BF Goodrich plant?" And she goes, "Well, no, I mean, it just depends on like who wants tires." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what brand do you normally make there?" She's like, "All of them." I'm like, "What do you mean? You mean your plant?" It looks like I just. Mike, is there any technical reason why you don't normally do live streams at 5 p.m.? Oh, not really. Why do you ask? I have no idea what happened. All I could do, I look at, the little, like the triangle symbol for the Wi-Fi on my lap. I just look up and it's gone. So I'm like, all right, fine. I'll switch to 2.4 as opposed to 5.8. Anyway, I'm back. So sorry. So yeah, thank goodness the ticker still works, right? You still know that, hey, I'm at the cool kids table. I swear to God. And there's obviously some lag too, Richard. Yeah. So anyway, so that's just sort of, brief for me. But that's sort of my 875 cents on Thailand 4.0. I'm a giant fan of it. And in fact, it was in place for probably about a year, maybe 18 months. And I lucked out. I got a grant from the university that I was working at to come over here and study the startup ecosystem and the entrepreneurial culture, specifically Thailand 4.0. And then the neat thing is that I brought it back, and the majority of the school really didn't really care about it. They were just like, "Oh my God, we don't have a PhD doctor. We have an administrator doing this. This is great. We should totally, And they're like, and I'm like, well, what do I need to produce for you? They're like, one, PowerPoint slide for the whole summary. And I'm like, okay, well, that's lame, but fine. Here it is. But the good news is that then I did like, a couple hour presentations in front of master's classes and that sort of thing. So that was a real honor. And I, because I got to stand up in front of everyone and basically talk about a place I love, right, which is Thailand, and the longevity of Thailand. Not just like, oh my God, I love Thailand because of the beaches and the massage. It's like, no, I love that too. But the fact is that like it's pretty simple for me to say I'm going to plan the rest of my life there because it has all of this. And it's not like, I mean, yeah, the BTS is getting older, but it's they're not slowing down the production of it. They're not decreasing the number of cars they use. They're certainly not decreasing the cost of it on an annual basis. They're expanding like crazy, and for the most part, you cannot turn 360 degrees from almost anywhere in Bangkok and not see at least one crane. I mean, there is improvement happening all the time. If you drive along the road, you see improvement on another side of the road as well as some of the road. If you take the train, you see improvement almost all the way down. If there's only one track, they are putting 2 tracks everywhere for the trains. And then you see overpasses, and then you see exits, and then you see, instead of they're just basically being like a piece of wood that keeps the cow off of the train off the tracks, they're actually putting in, the very mature that make noise and anyway. So I mean, it's constant improvement, and I love it, And and to your point, Richard, I mean, I've made other predictions similar to that in the sense that like in the next 10 years, as far as I'm concerned, Bangkok is going to be the best city in the entire world. Like it's going to be as renowned and respected and looked at and sought after as New York City was, years ago, when it's like, oh yeah, they got the ballet and they have this, and of course it's the financial center of the universe and all this. I mean, there's many things. Yeah, there's some bad things too. But let's face it. I mean, it was, pretty much that's the best. Years and years and years before that, of course, it was London, right? That was the epicenter, Rome, right? And so anyway, I just think that, yeah, that's going to be, and some of you will argue, and that, well, Mike, it already is. Like if I said that to my buddy Dana, he says, oh yeah, no, it already is. It already is the best city in the entire world. And, I still think it's got some room to grow for sure. But I mean, like I'm not living anywhere else. Okay. And don't forget, like I started living here when I still had a choice to live elsewhere. And so now one could argue I really don't have much of a choice, but, still it's where I want to live. It's absolutely where I want to live. I'm honored to be able to live here. I count my blessings every single freaking day that I get to be here in Bangkok, because one of the other 75,000 reasons why Bangkok is so amazing is because you can live in Bangkok, and from Bangkok, you can get to pretty much every other city in Thailand in a very short amount of time, depending upon how you want to get there. Like, so for example, tomorrow I'm going up to Ayutthaya. I've decided, I may. If I get up and I don't feel like doing it, I will, but I won't, rather. But there's a high likelihood that I will. And I'm just going to take the train up there. I think it's like 45. It'll take me probably as long to get from my condo to the main train station as it will to get from the main train station up to the Ayutthaya. And I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so I apologize if the tones are wrong. But anyway, so I'm going to go up to there and take it, one of the first few trains in the morning. And I think it's like 6 baht or 18 baht or something really ridiculous. And I'm going to take that up there, and my plan is to literally just go from the train station and walk towards the river and like look around. And if I like it, have a cup of coffee or something like this, and probably look around, maybe get a hotel room and kind of hang out up there, or just like walk around for the day. And if I get bored or disinterested or something like that, I doubt it, then I'll come home in the evening, but I really want to check that place out. And I don't really have any. Dana and I do have some interviews that we're doing on Sunday, so I got to get back down to Bangkok for Sunday. Jeremy and I, our normal Sunday broadcast, we're actually going to be doing that on Saturday. And so anyway, yeah, it is good to see Richard, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, again, we all know that the YouTube notification system is 100% reliable and top notch. However, I have not seen it. I have not gotten any notifications from Richard's channel. So I would submit that many of us on this Cool Kids table here that know Richard and know of what he produces, I'll just speak for myself. I'm disappointed that there weren't any more videos, because I love his data and fact that he gives. It is outstanding. It adds value to my life. And I have this on just for a couple reasons. One, so the email would let me know, hey, by the way, you're live right now. So anyway, so I just wanted to make sure I didn't get any sort of super important. I'm the only real sort of important call, if you will, that I'm waiting for is essentially from the Canadian Embassy. So I go over there and I needed to provide witnesses or contacts, basically, that I discovered what they do. To say, yes, this is Mike Somerville, right? This is Mike. And, you have to have known each other for more than 2 years, which is not really a difficult requirement, but having them physically in here. So as you might guess, I picked Rob because he's in Phuket. So that's in the same time zone here as the Canadian Embassy. And then I had to fill out a second form and then swear to something and then pay them, right? And they needed 2 more references. And so I used guys that I've known for 25 years, and those guys are in California. So anyway, so they sent me an email yesterday, and they're like, look, we're unable to get a hold of this person. We got a hold of this one other person. And I knew that. His name's David, he's a friend of mine here in Bangkok. And he said, yeah, they called. They literally asked, like, what's his hair color? What province was he born in? Which I totally think is adorable, right? Because, of course, that's what you call them in Canada, right? They're not states, right? They're not counties. They're provinces, right? And so anyway, they, and he's like, I have no idea. I probably would submit that my other friend, David from California, who I've literally known for 28 years, I bet he has no clue where I was born. As far as I know, I know he was born in England, but that's a big place. Like, I don't know what, like, no, they're like, what the heck is what's a Boston? I'm just joking. Of course, everyone knows that one. But anyway, so it's very interesting, the questions that they are asking to sort of get additional proof other than, of course, my federally issued ID, along with several other federally issued IDs that I provided them that, are what allow me to legally fly into Canada. But for some reason, that's not enough. And that's fine. Their due diligence. I'm more than happy that that a country actually has, a couple of checks and balances in place to be like, okay, well, this guy's applying for a passport. What do you think? I don't know. He seemed nice. Like, okay, no. The paperwork, and they wanted like original documents. And I was born like in the late 60s. I was born in 68. I almost said 69 there for a reason. That was bizarre. Anyway, I was born back then. So, I've got these 52-year-old my parents, thank God, had these 52-year-old documents that I needed to get the originals from and then bring those over to the folks in the Canadian embassy. And so therefore, really the only thing I'm waiting for is another email that either says we cannot get a hold of these other people that you updated us on when they would be available. Because I said, well, 2 of these people are on the West Coast of the United States. So they're 14 hours ahead. So it's going to be kind of a, and for the sake of argument, they basically work from like 9 to 6 kind of thing, 9 to 7. The downside about the US is that it is so common to get calls on your cell phone that are spam or people trying to sell you something or whatever, that many of us, me included, when I look down and there's not like a phone number that is basically in my contacts that's calling me that I don't know, that I've never seen before, I'm just like, I'm not answering this. Go to voicemail. If it's important, you'll leave me a voicemail. And if you're important, then I'll call you back. But anyway, so Tim says, so cool that my office says I can now work from home, but can't get into Thailand. Yeah, that's a classic catch-20. That's a classic catch-22 there, my friend. It's the gods. They're keeping us down. It's the man. William says, I don't mean to paint people on a broad brush, but does it appear that to me, those that follow you are higher educated, hence talk radio, if you will? I don't know. I mean, probably. I can tell you that if you were to look at my sort of sphere, right, of people that I prefer to hang out with, it usually sort of sways into the more professional kind of people, and I just sort of, and I guess I just kind of started in college, really. It's like from college, I basically started hanging out with, and again, I went to college for electrical engineering. So I wasn't into college for like the fraternities or the girls. Not a whole lot of girls in electrical engineering, much to my chagrin, but nonetheless, it's, yeah, so maybe I guess. I don't know. Again, your broad brush is, I love the color of the paint of your broad brush, man. Again, if that's the stereotype of Mike's and his channel, that's kind of like the Jewish people being really annoyed. It really pisses me off that everybody thinks that we're highly educated and we're like lawyers and doctors. And that's just really annoying. No, I think you're probably okay with that stereotype, but, hey, Todd, good to see you. Thanks a lot, man. Good to see you. Glad you came by. Referring to the railroad airport plan. Yeah, that will jumpstart the Thai economy and literally shock the world, not the digital aspect of 4.0. Yeah, I agree. And and Richard, did you say any more? I'm going to look at some of you. Oh, hey, guys, look at this. Boom. How you doing? Look at me. You can't see that probably, but that picture there actually was taken in my hometown on July 4th when Gracie and I went to the my favorite chat hack. Yeah. There you go. I pronounced it worse for the first 5 years. I was like, Kopangan. That's okay. You know what they know how to say yes to is, hi, how can I give you my money to go to Kopangan? They're like, this way. Absolutely. Just keep walking, white guy. Oh, my God. 6 things running right. No, I'm quite certain it's not yours. Believe me. I am well aware of my imperfections in my so here's what I tried to do. I actually tried to get a secondary feed in here for internet because for the it's like 90 megs down, and again, obviously it's not perfect, right? It's not industrial fiber that's coming into my it's just this is consumer grade gear, right? The Huawei router I think that I have or whatever. that's tracking my every move. You know, that's very disposable. I mean, if it breaks, they're not going to like bench it back at the AIS, you know, engineering lab. They're going to be like, okay, well, I mean, and they won't even test it. I've done this before with True. I call them up. I'm like, yeah, it's just not working, whatever. It's nothing like in the United States where like AT&T, they want to troubleshoot it. Same with Cox. Dana probably knows that as well. Well, can you do this? Can you turn it off, turn it back on again? And I'm always like, oh my God, if you get me, I'll give you $1,000 right now if you get me to level 3 support, because I'm ready to just poke my eyes out with a dull spoon. I cannot go through the basics of your like trying to fill out a ticket. Would you just get me to somebody that is at least, you know, knows the command line? And they're familiar with the phrase get commit. And I'm like, okay, this, you know, anyway. So, but that doesn't happen here. I like call it. He's like, yeah, the internet, like it just went out or went out and went back on. I'm not really sure. And so they send a guy over the following morning. All he does is go into the current router. And if he can get in, he can get in. And he goes in and he downloads the configs. He reviews the configs, takes the old one, puts it in a box, takes out a brand new one, puts it in, installs it, bam, flashes it with the old configs, with the free, you know, with the SSID and the password and that sort of thing. And then literally does a speed test on his laptop, does a speed test on his phone. And he says, okay, is there anything else? Like, that's basically the, you know, and I'm thinking, nope, you basically exceeded my expectations. He was supposed to be there at 10 o'clock. This is Thailand. What time did he get here? No, 9:50. I'm like, okay, you guys know what time it is. Here's the amazing thing. He comes in, took his shoes off. That's common. But he comes in and he, you know, fixes everything or replaces it, basically. I mean, he checked the wiring to make sure he didn't have to, you know, you know, put it in a new service loop. And so he's doing all this, right? And I thought I like saw someone outside. And so he had an escort like take him from the lobby, right? And so, and I believe he was with the condo company, and I guess he had to have, wait, this guy's standing out in the hallway. Okay. So, and the hallway is easily 90 degrees. And I said, hey, do you want to come in? Because, I mean, I got the AC. I mean, again, I don't crank the AC, but I mean, it's significantly cooler. And, of course, there's the humidity delta. And I said, do you want to come in? He's like, oh, no, like, gives me a why. And I'm just like, oh, my God. I said, all I got to do is take a video of this and send it back home and say, AT&T does this where they come fix your stuff, right? Absolutely. Here's the improvements that are going to happen on Soy Cowboy. There is going to be a DJ booth about mid-cowboy. And guess who's going to be broadcasting live from that place? What has 2 thumbs and broadcasts from Soy Cowboy? This guy. We'll see. I'm trying to figure that out. Nice to see you, old chap. Over here acting like Bangkok isn't all. Isn't you see? There we go. Dana gets me. Why do you and Dana hang out? Because he gets me. Our relationship works so well because we both like me. Which is probably the same statement that Dana says when his wife's like, now, why do you hang out with him? Well, you know, pretty much me and Mike hang out because, you know, we both like me, said Dana. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that, I don't know about you guys. Ear to ear grin, ladies and gentlemen, when I see that happen. Hey, King Leeway, what's going on, dude? Yeah, it was neat to come by your live stream this morning. That was kind of, where the heck was I when I was doing that? I think I was on BTS. Yeah, because I popped in and out and then just walked down to my appointment. But yeah, it was cool, man. It was good to see you. That lady she had a really thick accent from my perspective. And there was just sort of the echo. She was just sort of using her, you know, their laptop mic, you know, like crazy people do when they actually make a podcast that's 3 hours long and they actually think they have their shit together. But no, oh no, they'll do it over again. But yeah, that was cool, man. Whoops. Oh, the nation is what the king calls it, man. I don't call it the nation. I just talk about table. Paying my elite today, so hopefully I have a date for Thailand by the end of this month. Oh my God, Todd, that is so awesome, dude. Bam. I'm stoked for you, dude. I am hugely stoked for you. That must be exciting. I can tell you right now that if my life had kept me in San Diego and, you know, like all of this would have occurred, I would have been like, I am getting an elite visa this weekend. I don't care what it costs. I need to get the hell out of here And that would have been based on me having really no knowledge of what it really is like over here in Thailand, which is better. And so anyway, that's it's just such great news, man. Mike's was a walk-on, wanted to be a field goal clicker. Yeah, there you go. Good to know. Thank you, Mitch. I appreciate that, buddy. You're cool. Hello to you and your viewers, honey. I'm the luckiest guy in the world, dude. So here's have you guys noticed this? Do you have Filipina like friends, girlfriends, wives, that sort of thing? Not all. Many of them that I know change their name that is the display name on like their Gmail account. Okay. Additionally, they seem to have this need to create many Facebook accounts. And I'm not talking about, oh yeah, she's got a whole bunch of Facebook accounts because she's like trying to scam guys. Like, no. Let's remove that whole thing from the picture. But I mean, like Gracie's daughter and her niece, you know, so like Gracie's or Eurese's cousins. I'll get these friend requests from, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's got her picture on it. Like, why is she this new? They have like superhero characters, like girls that they really admire that are part of like singing groups, rock, dance groups, right? Actresses that they change, so I have no idea. I know that this last name, Gracie told me the story about the last name, and the last name was like I believe it was the last name of a character on a really popular Filipino TV show, like soap opera kind of thing. That's a new one to me. I don't know what that is. And, but anyway, I love you like crazy, honey. Always a pleasure. Yes, indeed. Trying to watch my slow data connect. Yes. Well, yes, it's imperfect. That's for sure. But, I tell you, it was really cool. All right, honey, when I was able to give you the load really quick. That was, and no comment, Dana. Okay. Because, I use this one called Ding, D-I-N-G, ding.com. And it is probably, Zoom will get it there pretty fast as well. But ding.com, I use that app, and I can usually, I loaded her phone with 1,000 pesos in, I was doing it while I was like walking down the sidewalk coming home the other night, so that was really easy. That was pretty awesome. 3-hour live stream. I know, dude. Can you believe it? It's like people are like, people come up to us. I can't wait till like the podcast just becomes, just incredibly like global and success. The YouTube channel, we get like, 50,000 subs, whatever. People come up to us. They're like, oh, so where'd you guys get, what do you guys have for bachelor's degrees? And we'll be like, engineering. Yeah, we're engineers, and therefore we test everything, of course, before it goes into production. That's the greatest thing about having it as a hobby, right? Can you imagine if that was like real life? But it was so enjoyable, dude. So enjoyable. But man, when I was listening to it because we listened to it on your phone, Dana, right before we were leaving. It's like, okay, yeah, it sounds a little bit overmodulated, but maybe you just have the volume to whatever. So we get in the grab and we go our separate ways up to BTS Blam, and we're finishing up the rest of our day. So I get on the BTS. I got my headphones on. They're not as good quality as these ones, but they're pretty damn. They're 100 and actually they're more expensive because buying these over here, they were just over 1,000 baht. That's like $35 for these things over here. I would normally pay 100, 110. They're Sony's if you care. I would normally pay about $100 for these. And I've been buying these things for the last 30 years. These are outstanding headphones. DJs, many, 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 many DJ friends of mine have these headphones. And so now do I. Anyway, so they're not awesome, but they're $100 headphones that Bluetooth, right? And they've got really decent fidelity. So I put those on, and then I start the broadcast, and I'm like, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? Like, Dana, if you didn't see it earlier, what I was talking about was that you and I were sitting there on this bench, right? Your table alone easily cost $100. That hardwood is awesome. And then we're sitting there in front of these microphones with, decent cable and that sort of thing, and accoutrement, right? And it's sort of, your floods and, your soft, no, you don't have soft boxes, but basically, the lighting is decent, right? And, so anyway, the audio chain that we're talking through, I submitted was at least $500 from our mouths, basically to the USB to go into your $2,000 laptop. And here you and I are, like, getting up real close, like, just excellent mic placement. Like, we've been doing this all our lives, Like we're thinking, well, we really better get our money's worth out of this Neumann. In a man in time, in a land before time, in a man before land in time. And so we're going through, and here we are, basically a meter each away from the smallest microphone ever. 3-hour live stream. And all I had to do was basically bring it up one of our channels, for Christ's sake, on my phone, listen to it for 2 seconds, and I would have been like, uh-oh, hold on, stand by. But it was so much fun. We didn't care. We are giving you entry with the first-time elite visa. Did he answer that? Because he will answer that. The short answer is he has to go through additional things. He has to get, well, first of all, he has to get approval for his visa, okay? And then he needs to get approval that his visa will be allowed in. And then I believe he's in a queue with the 200 people. And then, of course, the insurance and all of that. But, Todd's no moron. Todd and I would hang out at the cool kids table over on the this is the correct visa to get section. There would be no debate. There would be like, look, this is going to get me what I need. I am buying this. Cost is interesting, but not too relevant. Like, this is happening. I see happiness on the horizon, and it doesn't cost $50, but it doesn't cost $5 million either. So I'm going for it. And if you don't know, so Dana, the other cool thing about Todd is he also has a backup plan. Again, engineers probably should have had a backup plan. He's got the Cambodia is basically his backup plan. And meaning that, like, to get over this part of the world, knowing that, like, eventually you're going to be able to get from Cambodia into Thailand and back and forth. And probably I would submit that the whole, like, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam thing, that's going to happen pretty soon, I think. Did you guys see, if you guys know Rike, right? And so, like, if you saw one of his posts recently, I think it was CNBC, regardless of where it came from, the article was about the fact that Costa Rica, being painfully aware of how much money not only do they get from tourism, but the amount of money that they get from U.S. tourism. Like, I think in some cities, they said 75% of the tourists that come in are from the U.S. So they're like, dude, we got to get some people back here. Like, we're not eating. Like, we have no, and so what they're doing is they're saying, okay, well, let's look at the states in the U.S. that have that have at least the same or better reaction to the COVID thing. And, I mean, they can only choose 4. And of course, one of them that they chose was New York. And I'm going, come on, that was purely financial. You can't tell me, oh yeah, I mean, everyone in New York, they have a lot better containment of this than they did in Vermont. Right. But what's interesting is they chose, I think it was like Vermont, New York, New Jersey. They did say that Pennsylvania and Massachusetts were on a secondary list, not on the first list. Anyway, they're like, look, if you have residency, if you can prove residency via a driver's license from any of the 4 states that they listed, I can't remember all 4, but yes, one of them was New York, the other one was New Jersey, and I believe maybe it was Connecticut, maybe it was Vermont, for all I know. Anyway, regardless, it was obviously they're not going to pick some state that doesn't have a whole lot of people that, quite frankly, travel to Costa Rica on vacation regularly. So I get that. They wanted to do highest density, but also, kind of, flexibility on their ability to contain the virus or at least have a solution for it or something like that. And so they're going to allow those folks to come into Costa Rica. And so I wonder around here if they're going to be like, okay, well, I mean, if you're from Thailand or you're from, Cambodia, then, you can go Cambodia, Thailand. If you're from Vietnam, you can probably go anywhere. Or, quite frankly, if you're from Thailand, you could probably go anywhere. I mean, now getting back might be a challenge. They might be like, hey, listen, Thailand, #1 in the world, right? You can leave here all day long, dude. You can go to any countries you want. But when you come back, basically, we're going to hose you down with isopropyl alcohol, and you're going to sit in this cage for 2 weeks. And then maybe you might be lucky enough to be one of the people whose temperatures we take when you can enter a mall. So, it's there's a runway of solution that I think a lot of people are going to have to hang on for a while. But anyway, yes, Dana. I mean, you're so adorable. And yeah, we both worked in radio. I worked in radio for 20 years. I was the chief engineer for top market radio stations. 99.99% uptime. Do the math on that, gentlemen. That is literally minutes per year. I had generators that started in 30 seconds. They had air starters, and then I also had these flywheels that were mounted basically underneath the ground. And so there was so much momentum with these flywheels that when the power went out, the energy that it generated basically from this spinning, thing, that was one way that the power basically stayed on, because, again, if the power goes out and your laptop goes out, okay, that's one thing. If your 10,000 watt FM transmitter goes out, you need a lot of current. So the room full of batteries you would need to be able to power that thing, even if just briefly, is significant. So that was one of the ways that we did it. And then, of course, there were UPSs with everything else. But I had these generators that if the power went, I was like, and it was like, power's back on. So anyway, yeah. So the maximum amount of time I was ever off the air for about 5 years in a row was like 30 seconds. And I still have no idea how to get audio into a MacBook Pro with my buddy Dana sitting right beside me. Trust me, the next one is going to be epic. You forgot to like. Oh, my goodness. Wow. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you so much. It's almost like I've never produced shows before. I know, right? And dude, this guy, I mean, how is it labeled, your podcast? Is it the #1 podcasting network in Malaysia or Indonesia? I mean, it's a top tier distribution, right? I mean, it's just like, funny thing is that we were listening to ourselves through oh man, I'm telling you what, in the headphones, Dana and I sounded friggin' spectacular. We were just amazing. Just ask us. Yep. Yeah, the next Q200. Okay, all right. They weren't learning for it. Yeah, I mean, it's part of it, right? Don't say in Cambodia until there's a stigma. So if you guys haven't listened to the 4-hour podcast that we did with Dr. Tony Huge, on Bangkok Strange. And for that, just so you know, the audio is outstanding. The video didn't get recorded correctly either. And we also did another podcast this week. Tried to record it on Dana's phone. It was like an 1.5-hour podcast, and it recorded 2 minutes and 7 seconds. And we're like, what the? Anyway. So yeah, we're a work in progress. Let's just say. I tell you what, no, the podcast. The podcast is going great. Once we tried to do this whole let's put it on YouTube thing. I don't know. YouTube. I mean, obviously Google way overpaid for that. They're never going to get their money back. Psh, spoiler alert. 18 months later, sheer profit. Oh wow, what crystal ball are they walking around with? But anyway, Dana's stigma about anyone, not just like a few, but like literally every single human man that goes to Cambodia is this in Dana's eyes. So listen to the show and then mock him. First, you had to make an appointment to get the visa affixed at the embassy. And then after that, you can apply for the TEMQ. Speaking of Costa Rica, when I saw New York, I was like, really? Then why not California too? It's a great question. The only guess I could have, King, is that they're like, okay, well, this time of year, the chances of people from California wanting to come to Costa Rica, there's probably a higher density of people that are going to come from New York when it opens. Because, I mean, like, right, August is hot and humid in New York City. And September is, okay, October, I leave. I am done. I will get in Boston, same way. So I can understand why they were like, okay, well, let's concentrate on, New England. It's high. People up there aren't, they're not as poor. Certainly the ones that vacation in Costa Rica. Obviously, many people go to Costa Rica because it is cheaper, right, than other places like Aruba or Bermuda or that sort of thing. But anyway, Vietnamese don't need a visa for Thailand. That is accurate. Neither do Filipinas when they can get in. Otherwise, guess who would be sitting right here? And it wouldn't be my buddy Dana with his beard, even though that would be an honor. I like Gracie. I'm a little biased. Did you ever consider presenting when you worked in radio? Did I ever consider presenting? What does that mean? You mean being a DJ? I was a DJ, actually, if that's what you mean. But I will, I'm not that far behind, Tim, so you can probably answer that. But when you say, yeah, so I had a talk show, actually, for just under 2 years. It was called Radio Recovery. And we talked about recovery from drugs and alcohol. And my co-host was a woman. She's very popular, actually, up at K-Rock in Los Angeles. And so April Whitney was her name. And she came down to San Diego on Sundays, and we would do this show. The problem is that while I believe the content was actually quite valuable, to the point that William was making earlier, we were on the same time slot as Loveline with Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla. And unfortunately, the ratings for that were infinitely higher and arguably well-deserved. And so therefore, we got kicked out. But ratings weren't good enough. We weren't generating enough revenue, even though Sunday nights, you basically don't generate any revenue anyway. But we helped a lot of people. I can tell you that as long as, here's what happened and why I believe it was a wild success, and why I left that saying I could die tomorrow and I did a good enough job. I'm in a meeting, and we're going around the room kind of thing, like, oh, yeah, hi, my name is Mick. I'm why are you here? Oh, well, my parents, oh, I got sober when I was 17, or oh, my wife divorced me, so I decided to get sober. And we're going around, and the guy's like, I'm here because I was listening to this show called Radio Recovery, and I realized I have a drinking and drug problem, and I had no idea what to do. And then this guy told me to get my ass to a meeting, so I'm here to get sober. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I have done what I needed to do in my lifetime to add the minimum, if not quite a bit, of value. And he's a friend of mine, and he is still sober today. And that was back in 1995 that he said that. So there you go. Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. Found your way home from the beach. I did find my way home from the beach. Yeah. And the good news is that I've now made plans to go back to that beach for 10 days this time, not just 4. And so that's going to be very awesome. Yeah, I produce shows for the top podcast network in Asia and the largest radio station in Malaysia. Got it. Okay. I was trying to remember what the stats were. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. Well, I don't know what that relates to, but was that the amount of dead air that I had today? That's not good at all. Is that what it was? Yeah. What you guys need is a techie guy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're totally incompetent. 17 likes, 23 million viewers in the house. Right on. How do you do the thing, the Shaka thing? I mean, because I actually don't know how to do the thumbs up. I know it's like a control or an escape sequence or whatever that gets them up there. Or actually, I'm sorry. It does show up that way, like in YouTube and Facebook, right? But it doesn't show up when I put it on the screen here because it doesn't, like, I think there's this one that's like : good vibes : and that shows up like as a hug or something inside of YouTube. But here on the way that they render it, they don't render it. They were the Mokians or whatever it's called. Vietnam is part of ASEAN. Yes, it is. If you're interested, Google what country is ASEAN, and there's actually a fairly good article. Well, there's several good articles. Obviously, there's a good article at ASEAN.org kind of thing, right? But Wikipedia has a really good summary of it, as well as the individual countries that are part of it, and as well as APEC. APEC is also sort of an interesting group of economy, but I'm a huge fan of ASEAN. Huge fan. I mean, it is. Oh boy, just Indonesia alone is 465 million. Is that right? But I think ASEAN overall, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, if you don't know. I wonder, here's the interesting thing when I first found out about what that was and that there was a group of countries that were over here, I thought to myself, I wonder how long it's going to take before many, not all, but many people in the U.S., and of course, everyone in the world knows what U.S. stands for in the United States, or USA. They also know what that. When are people going to know what ASEAN stands for? But that, to be fair, there's also like abbreviations and stuff like APJ. That's used a lot of times, like in sales and certainly like global corporations, Asia Pacific, Japan, EMEA, like Europe, Middle East, Asia, right? Sorry. Europe, Middle East, Africa, EMEA. So EMEA, that whole like area. The Americas, right? Obviously, So in other words, I mean, not a lot of people talk in that group. So I suppose ASEAN is more of like something like that, like APJ. Like, is the average person going to know it? Then nah, probably not. But yeah, it's a big part. And I can't remember who brings the most money into it. Probably Indonesia. Maybe Malaysia. But again, luckily there's a global information network where that information is at the ready. Actually. So the Philippines was actually one of the founding members of APEC. I don't believe they were one of the founding members of ASEAN. I'm not quite sure. But again, it's a different model. And, but yeah, it's very interesting. What up? Your East Standard Time here and enjoying a morning walk, living life in the land of crazies. Carl, good to see you, man. It's good to see your name up there. That's awesome. I'm trying to think. Well, because my parents, it's like about just before 7. So my parents are probably getting up right about now. They don't necessarily check their email when they get up right away, but they go for a walk. My parents go for a walk and walk for miles at the beach, which is like, okay, well, of course, Mike, it's August, like, yeah. And then when they're in their 80s, okay, well, that's still pretty good. Yeah, well, they do it in February. And this 50-something I do not like when I was back home in October to tell them about my plan to come over here. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to walk at the beach. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I love you, but I don't have a whole lot of winter gear, basically. I mean, I had enough, obviously, to survive in October. It wasn't the dead of winter, but nonetheless, too cold for me. But that's cool, man, that you're offering me some more. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Girlfriend told me just this morning. Oh, okay. Interesting. Mike, is online radio worth doing or worse than YouTube? What do you mean by worse? You mean for talk shows? So here's the thing is that it's just another medium, right? And so here's the thing with radio is if you're just like doing like radio, like terrestrial radio, then here's where your revenues are going. This is your future. If you're gonna online radio is an additional medium that you effectively have to be on. You can't just be on terrestrial radio. You have to have like online streaming. So that's the second thing. To just do online, I mean, again, it's one thing to like live in a big city and have, like every possible frequency that the FCC will allow, there's a radio station, right? So, I mean, there's massive competition and everyone's like, oh my God, cool. Everyone's got a 3 share. Everyone's fighting for the same 60 seconds that everyone else is, or 15 seconds, quite frankly. So with online radio, you are in competition with literally tens of thousands of people. And so if you have a podcast, then that's one distribution. But I mean, if you've heard Dana and I, when he talks about the podcast, we tell it's one thing to say, yeah, so just go to YouTube and like type in, Bangkok Strange, or just go to YouTube and type in Live My Ass Off. Okay. No, to find a podcast, I mean, you have to have like your favorite podcasting software and none of it's aggregated. It's really a disaster if you think about it, the way that they've done podcasts. Now, the good news is that there's, ones that are out there that have significant backing, right? Obviously, iTunes and being one of the, so Apple Podcasts, Google, they're no slouch either, so they have. But I think to answer your question, I think if you're going to do anything like this or like Dana and I do or like my videos that I do on YouTube, unless you're obsessed about every single second that you broadcast somewhere, you need to be generating revenue for those seconds. If you're not obsessed about that, then you'll likely do what I do, which is why these multicast platforms, are very successful right now. So StreamYard is one of them. Like, I mean, right now I pay them enough money so that I can connect to 3 things. Those 3 things are YouTube and my Facebook page, and another RTMP server, which is simply the protocol that's used to squirt this thing out and have it retransmit. So, and then from there, I go to 5 others, okay? And I go through Restream. Restream.io is a multicast platform. And initially, they just started like, okay, well, you send us your stream, and we'll send it to a whole bunch of other places. Okay. And then much like StreamYard, where they have the ability to generate or encode, if you will, your originating stream inside of their platform in the browser, and then go to multiple, to multicast. Restream said, okay, well, we should also allow people to multicast, to originate their stream from inside the browser using our thing. So they have a webcam that you can do here. The main reason I don't use them, believe it or not, is because I like when I use StreamYard. One of the reasons I do it is it's also very forgiving. So therefore, when I lose the internet for sometimes 60 seconds up to at a time, it doesn't drop out, and so I really appreciate the fact that they cache it for a while. But secondly, I like to put the comments up here because I feel that there's a little bit more interaction. And additionally, on the replay, you're not necessarily listening on YouTube, and so therefore you don't necessarily have the live chat window portion open either on your mobile device or on the website. So you can see the comments that I'm sort of talking about. So I like to do that, and doing that inside of the Restream platform. If the comment is not that, if it's longer, if it's like a pretty long comment that of course is relevant, right? I think it'll do like the first 2 lines, but after that, it like chops it off. So I end up like having this comment display that does not displaying the whole thing. And I think that that's really doing, quite frankly, a disservice to you guys. And so therefore I'm like, eh. So anyway, so I do that. And then I go to multiple platforms. And my point being is that if you're going to do something, you almost have to do like the infamous shotgun marketing. It's like if you're going to be on YouTube and you're doing this, and especially with these live streams now and how easy it is. I mean, StreamYard was just like, hey, tell you what, why don't we make a solution that basically the deaf and blind can use? I mean, this is an outstanding platform that does about 10 things really well. But once you say, I'd really like an 11th thing. Well, sorry, not happening. You can't do, I can't do like multiple screens. I can't do layers. I can't like sort of interlace multiple chat windows, that sort of thing. I can do a background if I want to do green screen, but anyway, it's possible for sure. And if I had like multiple laptops, then I can do like multiple, I can essentially bring in my second laptop, if you will, much like the way I bring in Jeremy, right? And we do our show. But the point is that it's really deciding like, look, where are my listeners going to possibly be? And then just, doing it regularly and getting some kind of momentum. And that's a challenge as well. Because, like Jeremy and I normally do our broadcasts on Sundays, and I put a calendar invite, I put a calendar event for the foreseeable future. Sundays, Jeremy and I do a live stream. Well, this Sunday, Dana and I need to do what I think is going to be another outstanding interview. So we're going to be doing this. So I got to record that. I don't have to. I get to record that on Sunday with Dana. And so therefore I'm sliding, so I got to move that. Well, then next week, yeah, I'm here. And then the following week, I'm back down in Copangan. I don't even know how I'm down in Kopi. How's that, Dana? You're going to get KP. I'm going to be in KP. I got KP duty down there. I'm at the beach you wish you were at. How's that? Does that work? Okay. I may or may not do a live stream, or I may or may not. And I'm down there for 10 days. So I'm going to roll over and I'm going to roll through a weekend. And so it's going to be like, okay, well, I'm out of Bangkok for basically 11 days. And so, how am I going to do the show then, kind of thing. And so when it's not like, okay, yes, but they're paying me $275,000 a year. And of course I've got health benefits. And it's a hobby, right? I mean, Dana and I, trust me, we have a vision for what we're doing, and there is an absolute ability for us to generate revenue. And if you want to buy a Bangkok Strange piece of gear, if you want to buy some swag, for example, you go to shop.bangkokstrange.com. You get mugs and masks and T-shirts and that sort of thing. So there's that sort of thing. But, we only have, I think we have 25 now subscribers on YouTube. And as you guys know, many of you know me because you got to know me when I was like sub 1,000. And I was like, I really want 1,000 subs, guys, so I can like turn on the community tab so I can communicate with you that way. And then once I also got, I think it was like 4, 5, 6, whatever, 1,000 hours of viewing, then the monetary ability turns on. And that's really neat because a lot of you were like saying, dude, why can't I super chat you? And I was just like, my God, we talk about leaving money on the table. You guys are like, Mike, what's your damn PayPal? I said, look, you guys don't need to give me. And I'm so honored by that. And I get to buy smoothies and, that's really cool. And yes, I also use the money like when I'm traveling, because as you know, if you guys super chat me $5, it's like, dude, I eat for 2 nights. I mean, because I eat street food. I love street food, and so, but I'm walking around I don't go to a beach paradise and I'm like, oh, wow, they have really nice linens. I think I'm going to go sit. No. If there's flies everywhere and there's, like oil on the ground and there's a high likelihood that, the vegetables that they're using are so fresh that basically by 3 p.m, they basically all wilted and they just close down their shop because they don't have refrigeration. That's where I'm eating. And that is basically a 75 baht discussion. So therefore, I get 150 baht. I'm living the dream. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. And I know that I skipped around and I'm back down and I need to get back down to where I was when we were having more of a discussion on radio. Oh boy, I just bounced all over the place, right? So there's hopefully an answer to your question, Scott. And obviously you've been here more than once, Scott, so you know that my answers are not, they're rarely short. Even Indonesia. No idea. Yeah. Well, because it's southeast, right? Yeah, true. I mean, you could argue, and you're like not Borneo, Brunei, right? I mean, they've got tons of cash because of oil. So, but there's ASEAN, and then there's AEC, Asia Economic Community. There's the ASEAN Economic Community. I didn't realize. I mean, I know there's APEC. I know there's the Asia Pacific Economic Community, but I didn't know there was just the Asian one. That's kind of cool. I have to do some more research on that. Hey, John, good to see you, buddy. Aloha, Laguna. Same as Carl, got my coffee and now going for a walk on the beach. Well, yes, but you're in the Pacific. So for you, it is 4:02 a.m., my friend. So good job, man. Good job. If you use Downcast on iOS, you can search for. Oh, yeah. No, trust me. I mean, it's not like there aren't platforms out there. I mean, I have and in fact, so one of the things that Dana and I were talking about, because what I use actually to listen to my own radio station, as well as other, music stations that I listen to, is I use TuneIn. So I stream on TuneIn, which is why there's this logo, which is the Big I Radio. And that streams on TuneIn. So I like listening to that, like when I'm walking on the BTS or walking on the, the Skywalk or riding on the BTS. And so I looked in there. So we're not in TuneIn yet, but we're going to get into TuneIn. And we may or may not be able to get into iHeartRadio because, of course, if you open up iHeartRadio, the first logo you see is #1 in podcasting. I'm like, well, yeah, probably according to you. But in any case, we're going to, we're in all of the, or Dana has gotten the podcast into the main podcasting platforms. And so it's not difficult to find. For example, I believe if you type, at least when I did it, and this was only like 2-3 weeks ago, so obviously the algorithm changes, but Spotify, if you go to Spotify and you just type the word in Bangkok, I believe Bangkok Strange actually shows up as the first podcast in there. So kudos to Dana on that one. Hey, Robert. Stoked you're here, buddy. Yeah, see, so there's that good vibes thing that I'm talking about. Like for some reason it will show the thumbs up, but it doesn't show like the, the hug or whatever the good vibes thing is. So anyway, yeah, absolutely. Kopanyang. Farang Death Island. Yeah, exactly. Because there's like that one at the bottom where they have the full moon party. And here's what's so funny. So, and again, that island is known for that. It's known for excessive ecstasy and cocaine and alcohol and all the drugs and everyone, drinking like just buckets and buckets of alcohol with these giant straws, and that you're supposed to share with a friend. That I used to drink those too. I don't know if you guys in the US ever heard of the place called the Red Onion. It was a mild chain. It wasn't nationwide by any means, but the Red Onion was an amazing restaurant. And at about 7 p.m., 8 p.m. in Mission Beach, at least that the franchise they had in Mission Beach, it turned into a nightclub, and it turned into an epic nightclub. It was incredibly popular in San Diego in the late 80s and early 90s. It was right on the beach, and they had amazing lighting, and the sound system was stellar. And they sold buckets. They sold literally beach pails that I would have to say were probably a gallon. It was probably a gallon of liquor And honestly, I don't know how much they were for whatever reason. What just flashed into my head was $12. I can't imagine they were that cheap, but nonetheless, the idea was is that you order one for a table, and the woman literally brought over like about 25 straws, and they would like, they would joke around, they would hit you in the head with the straws. So you got these round tables, and they put the thing in the middle, and then all of your buddies, you would all sit around, and you would like, drink this drink, with your saliva going back into the straw. So it's not exactly COVID proof. Okay. So I can't imagine it would be very popular in today's, but the point is that these buckets, to give you an idea of, I would minimum 4. I would drink at least 4 of those in the evening. And the reason I knew this, after blacking out, of course, and then hearing the stories the following day of all of the crap that I did when I was there, is that I would look up on my counter and there would be all of the buckets stacked on top, right? And, I used to sort of wear them home as like a badge of honor. But, being mildly inebriated, the way that I wouldn't, I got to dry this out and make sure that there's no. If it was 2 a.m. and I had to leave and I wasn't done, which was rare, and there was still a little bit, I just put it on my, all over me. Comedy writes itself, at least I'm told that. So anyway, so those buckets are very popular for the full moon parties. And of course, full moon happens once a month, right? So they have this party once a month. Well, that beach obviously has infinitely more opportunity for you to drink alcohol and dance and that sort of thing. So they also said, well, it's only once a month. Maybe we should have half moon parties. So there's half moon parties, and then they have black moon parties, and then they have, and then of course there's, there's not really nightclubs. There's restaurants, there's bars and restaurants and stuff, restaurants that serve alcohol basically, and sometimes have live music. Where you land there, Tong Sala, the pier, it's a tiny little city, basically. And it's, designed to like, okay, we're going to capture and provide the tourists that get off the ferry exactly what they need. So you cannot walk down the sidewalk without seeing a motorbike for rent. Like, I'm not talking about like one parked there. Like, if there's a motorbike parked on the sidewalk, it's one for rent for you. And, they're incredibly reasonable right now. It was 150 baht a day, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's so low. It's and 200, or maybe it was 200, and then I got it for 2 days, so it was like 150 or whatever. The point is very inexpensive. And many of them are new, because I didn't know this until I got there and started talking to some of the locals, the business owners. July and August are actually a high season for them, because school is out. And so a lot of college kids will come over, for the full moon parties and the crazy partying and all that. But additionally, Kopanjan is also it's very yoga centric. So it's interesting. It's kind of got like this like crazy 110%, 80 miles an hour, massive rave, crazy EDM, tons of drugs party on one beach. And then really for the majority of the rest of the island, it's yoga. I mean, there's yoga retreats everywhere. So it's interesting. But of course, it does. It has this stigma. It has this basic negative connotation that if you go there, you're going to die as a foreigner because you're going to have too much drugs and too much alcohol. Good afternoon, Robin. Good to see you. Watching you direct here from the studio in my break, producing my afternoon show. Now, remind me, Robin, you're in Denmark. Is that right? Oh, boy. I forget. But good. That's good. How do we get to your show, Robin? Do you have like a link? You're not a here, let me go to YouTube. If you have a link to like your show or something like that, please feel free to put it in there. And then what I will do, or one of my moderators will do, is allow it to be seen. Because if anyone just like posts a URL up there, it doesn't necessarily show. And that's a YouTube thing. So anyway, but yeah, do that would be if. Whoa, mute. Yeah, so if you would do that, Robin, that'd be really cool. I'd love to be able to promote and I'd love to hear it too, because I know that you've come on the live streams before, and of course, as you probably know, talking to another guy or gal that's in radio, that's or that's done radio, or certainly if nothing else has the passion for radio. Let's just say that maybe their experience is not, but yeah, it's just, it's a very common, like, I don't know if real estate agents do that. Like when you meet another real estate agent, you're like, oh yeah, dude, I remember back in this, the way we did, blah, 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 and you talk about the craft. Well, my experience is when you meet another radio guy, you talk radio. I was listening to Bangkok.fm. There's a guy in town, and years ago, he's like, I should buy this domain name, right? Because it's like, maybe it'll be worth some money someday. So he buys this domain, Bangkok.fm. But he's also a radio guy. And that was the other reason why he's like, oh, yeah, that'd be kind of neat. Yes, I don't own the domain, but I'm a radio guy. So maybe I'll do it someday, Maybe I'll sell it to CBS and make $1 million. Or, maybe I'll just, so he doesn't know. So he's talking to one of his friends, or not necessarily one of his friends. It might have been a friend. I don't remember. But the story that he told me is that he was talking to someone who was like, one of these people that, I don't know if the correct title for them is like domain broker. But at the end of the day, they basically buy and sell domains. And then they sell the vanity ones or whatever. So really? Right now? We're having technical difficulties right now? Oh, my God. It was only me that got knocked out? I don't know, dude. I didn't see a swirl. So, but anyway, thank you. And as you know, yes, always remember. Additionally, the next live stream that Dana and I do, if the audio is not at least this good, and it will be much better than this because his microphones are a lot nicer than this, please let us know right away. I will super chat you to basically make sure that Dana and I are not streaming from a tin can 70 meters away. Oh my God, it's technically embarrassing, man. But anyway, so there. It was interesting how I noticed that. And so that radio people talk. So, thank you, Robert. Yeah. Okay, good. Looks good. Good. So I reached out to him, or I know what it was. You guys probably remember this. I was trying to find a radio studio, like an actual radio, either production or on-air studio, where I could do like these live streams, right? I think it'd be really cool to have like a couple of cameras and, not like necessarily Jim Rome kind of thing, but I love the radio station studio atmosphere. It's just cool to me. My mom is a librarian. She's incredibly well read. She is research librarian. I mean, it's not just, she doesn't just like sit there and check the books out. I mean, she reads easily a book a day, if not two sometimes. Loves going to the library. Some people love old bookstores, you know what I mean? And so that's her atmosphere that she loves. Some people like florists because they're really into flowers. Some people are birders. They like to go out into the woods and they like to look at birds and really appreciate that. I love radio studios. I could just sit there in it like for hours. And whether I'm on the air or someone else is on the air, I can just look. I can look at the board. I can look at the automation system or the voice, the processing that's installed there. I can look at the wiring underneath the console and be like, oh yeah, they did a really good job. Oh yeah, look at the way that they laced those down. I dig that. So I would like to be doing a live stream regularly inside of a radio studio. Now, Dana's studio is actually pretty darn close. It's cool. And it's certainly very podcast studio centric for sure, but it's not radio studio, and I really love those. And so therefore I was trying to find one of those. So I was Googling as you do, and I came across Bangkok FM, and I had known about Bangkok FM because I had subscribed to them actually on TuneIn, and I would listen to them, and they're fairly new music. It's more like, it's like Asian new pop. And that's not really my cup of tea. I'm more of a kind of a Western EDM guy. If I'm listening to that, or if I'm listening to Big Eye Radio, then it's kind of like a combination of older, one-hit wonders from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, some of the hits from those, but then also, some current EDM things. So anyway, I started listening to Bangkok FM, and so I sent them an email. I said, hey, so are you guys actually really here in Bangkok? Because it was just automation, just like mine. There was no live DJs. They weren't doing weather reports, that sort of thing. And but they did have, sweepers and bumpers and that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, well, this guy's, he's bought a professional jingle package. And I'm thinking, okay, where? So I reached out to him and met with him. And actually he lives, Dana, if you're still listening, he lives over near Fortune Town. So I cruise over on the MRT. I meet him in front of Fortune Town and we walk back basically to his one. He's got 2 townhomes. And the reason is because the first one where the radio station, basically the automation is set up to run from, he has a company and he teaches a foreign language that I can't remember right now. I want to say Norwegian, but I don't think that's right. Is it Danish? That's not right. Anyway, I can't remember. Regardless, it's no, I can't remember. Anyway, so he does that for his business. He to generate money. He has a bunch of uh, desktops effectively there. Because of course he's had to pivot right because of COVID, so he couldn't necessarily have class where students were sitting right next to each other. But anyway, so anyway he does that there, and then he's got his automation there for Bangkok.fm, and then because they are successful and they have so many students, to his credit, they have another townhouse that's about 3 or 4 townhouses down, and that's their home, right? So they don't have people coming into their home for the school. Anyway, so I cruised over there and talked to him. We talked about radio for 3-4 hours, right? And he used to do pirate radio from where he was from. Literally, he would have a pirate radio station. So anyway, so very cool guy. And but my point is that you get in a room with a radio guy, or I get in a room with a radio guy, and I talk about radio for a while and enjoy it too. It's like, oh boy, we're really talking about this. No. It's enjoyable, man. It's really enjoyable. And and as you might guess too, I mean, radio in the US is different than radio in Europe and Asia. It's sought after. The way that radio, especially hit radio or very, very popular radio, or stations that are known all over the world. If you're in radio, I mean, many people know about K-Rock. Many people know about Z100 in New York. Many people know about KZZP, even they know about WBZ in Boston. They know anyway. So the point is that there's these call letters that are fairly well known if you're in the business. And I got to go to as well as work at a lot of those properties, and so it was neat to just sort of be able to share my experiences there. That make it fun. Can I be honest? I spent the whole stream, you and Dana, thinking Mike should have taken that furry microphone. Absolutely. There's nothing quite like a dead cat to really spruce up a podcast now, is there? Dorman, hello. Are you going to Cambodia soon? He actually shared a little bit. Oh, there we go. Yeah. October 15th. That's good. I'm glad that he answered. But again, that's your backup, right, Todd? You are coming to Thailand if you can come to Thailand, right? Hope you have luck. Everything goes smooth. Oh, we all do, dude. I mean, the Cool Kids table is rooting for you, my friend. Absolutely. Working on paying my bleep visa, but it's early for the bank. Yeah, back there. That's true. Robert says, Todd, I'm having problems with this phone. Should be getting a new one today. Type is haywire and overheating. Oh, that's a drag, dude. Yeah, I mean, if it's old, then yeah, that's because new decent phones, especially over here, you get a decent enough phone for $100. I mean, if all you want is the Android. I mean, obviously, if you want an Apple. Although, Dana, do you know the new version of the Apple that they brought out that's over here? I believe it came in at $299. Wasn't that sort of their price point? There was their goal. I can't remember. You're a Mac guy, so I figured you'd know. Pirate radio. I did that back in the 90s in high school. Yep, me too. I had one in my basement how old was I? So I was in high school. So that was 85 at the latest, probably 1984, because my buddy and I built a studio in the basement, but we didn't have multiple 100-watt transmitters and that sort of thing. So our pirate radio-ness was very localized. Additionally, my father is an electrical engineer, and certainly back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, not the 90s so much, but definitely the 80s. I mean, if you had a pirate radio station and the FCC came knocking on your door, that was a big deal. I mean, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, well, let's slap. No. I mean, you had to get a license to be on the air. Okay, you didn't. And once I actually got into the business of actually being on the air in commercial radio in major markets, anyone could be on the air. I mean, you didn't have to sign up for your first phone or anything like that. So. But yeah, I did. I loved it, man. I loved everything about radio basically until I left. I was so grateful that I was really able to ride the radio wave it was just getting better and better. We were making so much money and it was so fun. And the promotions we were doing were some of the promotions we were doing in our little radio. I mean, it wasn't little, but our radio station in San Diego, certainly not Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, that sort of thing. We weren't in top 10 markets. But the promotions that we were doing in San Diego got picked up by CNN. I mean, we were doing these really awesome things. And the artists that we got to bring in, to provide to the the fans, basically the people, the listeners. It was great. And we were doing, we were working with Make-A-Wish, and we were working with Susan G. Komen. It was awesome, and I got to meet some really, really amazing people. And I think we got to make a lot of people happy. So that was cool. Then Napster showed up. And that changed the way a lot of people thought they could, legal or not. Legal or not. Let's remove that from it because it was illegal. Let's be clear. That gave people some ideas about, there might be a different way for me to consume music versus having to listen through this damn Nissan commercial before I get to, the next pop hit that I want to hear. So that was like, okay. And then, internet radio obviously was there. My internet radio station went live in like 88. Trying to remember when the heck did I register? I'll have to look back through my DNS entries or my Whois, find out when I originally registered that. But when I started an internet radio station, and 90% of the content that I got there, because it was MP3s, I downloaded from Napster and was streaming that way. And so that was definitely no. I want to say it was 90. Oh man, when did I start streaming? 97 maybe? I'm sorry, did I say 87? Yeah, so it's like 97, 98. Anyway, so I was doing it then. And so that was an option. And then I was the first person to stream the World Series to the point where Major League Baseball sent me a cease and desist and said, don't ever do that again. Because they're like, because we're gonna. But the Padres were in the World Series, and I had these servers that I had up at this AT&T data center that the web team had, like, they way overbought. We had like 3 servers that weren't even being used, and they were these brand new HP servers, and they were in an AT&T data center, so they had 100% uptime for the data. The power was so I'm like, this is amazing. So I threw real audio, to put in there, and so we encoded in real audio, and we had like 5,000 or 6,000 concurrent listeners on the stream, and that was unheard of. I mean, you didn't have multiple thousand people listening to your internet radio station back in the mid to late 90s. That wasn't common. So anyway, it was it changed everything, and then within a few short years, like basically pretty much after 2001, pretty much after 9/11, because people were so obsessed with trying to consume news, but information, which then of course led into consuming, their music, and then the pretty much the topper was satellite radio. And so Sirius and XM came out. I was a beta tester for those guys. Very interesting companies, very different technologies, the way that they got the data to you. Now, obviously, it's one company, but, Sirius, low Earth orbit, and then XM, geosynchronous. But that was an interesting model. Of course, literally everybody, except for me and maybe, another dozen people that when they first started kind of thing. And obviously the people that worked there pretty much believed in it, as well as the investors. But, it was the standard thing. And I couldn't believe people were like, no one is ever going to pay for radio. And people would be saying that to me. And I'm like, you have cable TV at home, right? I'm like, were you also one of the people that said no one's ever going to pay for television? I mean, come on. I mean, dude, you've already got an example of how that occurs, and they make a lot of money. Satellite radio makes a ton of money. They lost a ton of money for a number of years. It costs about $25 million a month for XM radio to operate. Right now they have 4, but they only used to have 2 satellites that covered the United States. But about $25 to $30 million a month. And so, when you've only got 100,000 subscribers, that's bad news. And, to get subscribers, you got to give away a lot of free subscriptions, right? But now, I mean, they have well north of, I think the last statistic I saw is 30 million subscribers to satellite radio, which again, that's only 10% of the population, less than 10% of the population in the U.S. And it's not just people, right? I mean, in other words, like a lot and I'm quite certain that that number is padded by all of the brand new cars that get sold with the free 90 days of satellite radio. They probably include those in there. And, I used to roll over and get into paid subscriptions, but my last car, I didn't bother. I'm just like, forget it. I can get way more information, because it also had HD. And a lot of the side bands that they use for HD, certainly in major market stations, were simply streaming, if you will, a lot of the stations that I liked on satellite radio. So I was like, well, I'm getting this on HD1 or HD2, so I don't need to pay for it. So it was fine. And then I had, and then you could put a DVD, of course, in there, right? Which is 4.7 gigs of MP3s, which is an enormous amount. And it had Dolby Surround. I mean, anyway, so the point is that, terrestrial radio was like, then, to the point where non-traditional revenue, which is something that used to be used in a cursory way, like, well, where are you getting? Well, ads and then ad libs, and then we're doing big sponsorships and that sort of thing. And then there's non-traditional revenue, and that's pulling in about another $1 million a year, but it's nothing to. But then, we at our FM, we set up an entire department that was based on basically non-traditional revenue. So there was web advertising, there was streaming media advertising, and then there was simulcast streaming of your main product, right? But it was a ton, and so anyway, so the revenues just started decreasing like crazy, and that was the same time that I basically, left this one. My last sort of final full-time gig is certainly as a radio engineer for multiple years, in a very well-known radio property, in the radio business. Most people don't know what KFMB is. If you're in San Diego, you do, and if you're in like the business, you know what KFMB is. But for the most part. You might know about KGB, even if you didn't live in San Diego. You'd probably have heard of K-Rock, only because there's multiple K-Rocks, right? But basically K-Rock Los Angeles. There's another one in New York City, of course. Anyway, it was a great run. And but now, there's just so like I say to somebody, I'm like, I carry a TV station. I carry a live TV broadcast studio in my backpack. Okay. And I can have the editing software. I mean, if I install it, right? I can have Adobe Audition. I can have iMovie's free, and all of this. And I can do all of this stuff that we used to have literally vans full of equipment to have to accomplish to be able to get that content broadcast to, the local community. And now you do all that on a laptop and you broadcast to the entire world. Anyone who's got internet can come in and see you. And so therefore a lot of people do it. So the competition's fierce. So it's hard getting kicked up to the top, But apparently too much money to send without hitting the fraud. Yeah, no, I get it. You know what I did, Todd? I transferred via TransferWise, because even with their fees, it was still cheaper to go through TransferWise from my bank there to a bank here, to my bank here. Is I transferred less than $9,000 a day, and then I transferred out because it was going to a different location, because it wasn't to get a retirement visa. I didn't have to do the 800,000 baht. But it was about what you were spending. It was about 600 and something, 100,000 baht that I was moving over. But I moved it over in $9,000 chunks effectively. So it wouldn't have the $10,000. But additionally, I was moving into an account that I was then moving into another account. And it was moving from one Casacorn account to another Casacorn account. So it was instantaneous. So the minute I said, move out of my account into this one, it was right away. The reason being is that what I didn't necessarily want to do, even though I report it every year, is have more than $10,000 in total, in aggregate, in all of my foreign accounts at any given time. Because the amount that you move over isn't necessarily as interesting as the massive amount, the total that you do, the highest amount that you've had anywhere throughout the year. But it was pretty easy. I mean, so from Bank of America through TransferWise over to here, that part would take no more than 72 hours for sure. So iPhone SE or refurbished iPhone. Oh yeah. For the $299. Yeah. I could just reach about 1 kilometer with mine. How much power did you have? WSOU private. Very nice. And of course, if you don't know, there was pirate radio in Los Angeles, which was not a pirate radio station, but it was Shadow Stevens, right? If you've heard that name in radio, he and a bunch of his buddies got together and they just, they said, hey, look it. let's market this station as if it was like a pirate radio station, and as if it, because they had no commercials for the longest time. They got so much investment that they were able to run this thing in Los Angeles. You want to talk about leaving money on the table? This was back before I got sober, so it was late 80s, early 90s, and but it was amazing. It was amazing. Pirate radio, 100.3 FM in Los Angeles. The deal with Los Angeles back then is basically if you got a tower that was on Mount Wilson and it pointed that to Los Angeles, it printed money. It printed money. They were getting TV value for radio spots in Los Angeles at that time. $5,000 for a 60. I mean, it was just amazing what they were doing. But yeah, I loved it. And you guys have been on radios. You guys have been on radio. You guys have been on live streams with me before where I go on and on and I go on and on and on and on and on and on about how much I loved it back then. Phones and iPhone 8 Plus currently problems. Went to Apple in Pasadena, Los Angeles. Store closed till further notice. 4 stores around here are closed and empty till further notice. Isn't that crazy, Asia or Robert? Because they just opened up the brand new Apple store over on right in front of Central World, and it's in a parking lot. The roof looks like a giant spaceship. It's like 2 stories, tons of glass, tons of wood, and so they're closing them there and they're opening them here. Malls here are just going bonkers crazy. Pirate radio because of the mascot. There you go. Nice. Just wondering if it's worth it. I'll talk. I mean, again, it depends. I mean, look, if you want to, if your requirement is that you need to generate $100,000 a year in profit to be able to live the life you want to live, then it's going to be tough. I mean, again, it's going to be the infamous work your ass off for multiple years in a row to become an overnight success. So, I mean, think about Rob. I mean, Rob Wagner, right? 20 Seconds in Thailand. He's been doing his YouTube channel for just over 5 years now. And he's got 50,000 subs. And CB Media started doing videos here in Bangkok, 6 months ago, maybe? He's got like 110,000 subs. So how do you know? I mean, it's different content for sure. I mean, he's more into the cars thing. Obviously, Rob is his shtick initially was a guy moves over here, has absolutely no clue what Thailand is all about. And he's going to share that with us. And obviously, in 5 years, he has a clue now. But yeah, interesting. Hey, Mike, what about the movie Pump Up the Volume starring Christian Slater when he did his radio show from his basement? Absolutely. I loved that show. Sorry, movie. Except for the technical part of it. Because, when they strap the transmitter and they're riding around, no. That won't work. That's the other reason why while I love WKRP in Cincinnati, if you guys ever saw that show, it was totally technically inaccurate. I mean, the turntables they would use, the mixer they would use, the microphone they would use, the DJs would basically be on the air without headphones on sometimes. I'm like, come on, it doesn't occur. So anyway, that was like. So I says, you're right about 9/11 because Q&A was still on 93.2. What? Where are you from? You mean in... Because we don't use 0.2s in the U.S. I can't remember where you are. You used to have the lifetime membership of Sirius. Oh, yeah. No, for sure. They gave me smoking deals. It was funny. I had 2 radios on my dash for a while, and each of them had an audio out, and then it went into a cassette, and I would put the cassette inside of my radio, and I would just drive around and do tests. And XM rarely dropped out. Because XM, to their credit, they had technologists as well as attorneys. They went to the FCC and they said, look, we're doing this satellite radio thing. No one's ever done it before. We're probably going to need thousands of watts of power, coming down at 1.8 gigahertz, if you don't know. It is the licensed band. And we don't even know if that's going to be able to cover the United States. Right, because no one's ever put a satellite in geosynchronous orbit over the United States to cover the entire... Come on. That was amazing. I don't know how they convinced them of this. But then they also said, yeah, and I mean, and it's audio, for God's sake. It's not like it's like HD video that they're streaming down, from the bird. And it's at 1.8 gigs. It's not like it's 22 gigahertz, like Dish was, right? I mean, you put your arm in front of the Rain fade, for God's sake. I can't get, I can't watch the game tonight. There's rain fade. What? Didn't happen with satellite radio. So they were like, oh, we're going to need terrestrial repeaters. So basically where there was ever a decent FM transmitter tower in the United States, XM had a license to do a repeater there. So satellite radio, they were genius. I don't know how they did that. Sirius did not do that. And I can understand why they combined, because basically, I mean, they were fighting for literally exactly the same people. So it's like, look, do you want to make $500,000 and we make $500,000, or do you want to get together and basically make 1.2 million because our costs are in profit, because we can obviously aggregate the costs. XM was out of Washington D.C. Sirius was out of New York City. I mean, it was just like, they were too different to really add the most value. So I think it was a great, I mean, again, monopoly, right? But I think it was a wise move in the long run. Used to Croc, not anymore. Used to be Croc. Oh, K-Rock. Nice. Used to be K-Rock. KROQ. The radio station listened to by more poodles than any other breed of dog. K-Rock. I used to love K-Rock sweepers. I used to love K-Rock studios, the old ones. Oh, my God. Their on-air light was a giant light bar, basically, that goes on top of a police car. The story is that, the DJs, of course, being the rebels that they were, playing Duran Duran, they went out drunk one night or something and ripped the lights off of a patrol car, and then they just like slammed it on the side of the door on the wall and used that for their on-air light. Good story. Don't know if it ever worked, but 92.3 K-Rock. The best one was serving the universe from atop the Empire State Building, Z100, New York. Still on the AM in 2000. Oh, really? Okay. 2002. Nice. Supposedly, XM has the bandwidth to do video because that was their backup plan, but never needed to execute on it. Well, yes, they had a lot of bandwidth, and they could have chopped it up however they wanted. If you remember when XM and Sirius too first came out, they had like a third the channels that they have now. And they just kept adding, right? And then what they did is that they put in channels for local regions, right? So they had like and then they had weather for like local. And then the other thing that they did is they started selling weather reports, basically, and traffic reports. And so that would be a data feed, effectively, not like a person saying, oh, yeah, there's going to be a backup on the I-75 right now. There's 7 people pulled over. It wasn't those live things, or like the dude in the chopper. But so here's an interesting one for you. Okay, so if you don't know, when you're in a helicopter or you're in an airplane and you're flying it, you're wearing a headset pretty much the whole time, and there's a mic, and there's some ducking and some squelching that occurs, okay? Because obviously you don't want to be cruising around the whole time, and you don't want your microphone to be picking up the ambient noise, which is significant in a helicopter, or unless it's a really super executive helicopter, the doors are this thick and it's got tons of padding and it really jet propulsion and all this. But the basic helicopter, and certainly the ones that would be used for doing traffic reports. So you have the headset, which is noise canceling headphones, and then you have a microphone that is very tight pattern, very directional. It's not going to pick up in other words, if there's a guy sitting next to you yelling at you and you have the mic open, rarely are they going to hear it. So because of that, when the traffic report guy would, click on his mic and he would do the traffic reports, all you would hear is as if he's basically in the studio on a fairly, average microphone, not a really good one. So what we had to do, we had to record the sound of a helicopter, and we had that on a digital recorder. And every time he cracked the mic, that sound of a helicopter played in the background. Because if he cracked the mic and he was in the helicopter and he was doing a live traffic broadcast or a news broadcast or whatever, it did not sound like he was in the helicopter. So we had to add in the sound effects of a helicopter to make people be like, oh, yeah, he's in the helicopter. Because he absolutely was in a helicopter. We had our own helicopter when I was at KCBQ. It used to land in the field right where the AM towers were. Dirt would go everywhere. Everyone's car would get all dirty. But we had our logo on the side of it. And he would go up and do that. But every time he keyed the mic, we had to do We had to add the background noise so everyone believed this. Aloha, doctor. Good to see you. Mahalo for coming by, man. I really appreciate it. Online radio station, and I'm just looking to make an extra $500 to $1,000 a month. I mean, it depends, dude. I mean, if it already has some numbers and it already has some popularity and you're streaming and you're doing something, I mean, look, depending upon what the format is, I mean, you can go to TuneIn, you can go to iHeartRadio, you can go to iTunes, you can go to, and you can type in, or not necessarily iTunes, because that's basically not, that's on demand. That's not live streaming. Anyway, shoot me an email. If you want me to help you out, I can, do whatever you'd like. Certainly I can help you with the technology. Actually, both Dana and I can, because we're incredibly skilled at doing live streams that sound like we're basically in our fort from when we were 13 years old. But yeah, if you have any, I'd be honored and more than happy to. So anyway, just livemyassoff@gmail.com is pretty much the easiest way to do it. So, and more hugs and how are yous? Loving it. Way to go. Putting all-nighter. Oh my God, dude. So you're just like getting off right now, or are you just starting your shift right now? You've been going all night, huh? So what is it for you? You are what, 340 right there? 240, 340? I can't remember. Dana says, same reason when you produce long form stories for radio, you spend just as much time recording the room noise, theater of the mind. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things additionally for our football games and baseball games. So the microphones that we would send out with our field guys, basically they would travel with the team. So Padres and then the San Diego Chargers. So the guys and San Diego Chargers doing NFL is one thing. There's like 17, 18, 19, whatever games a year. Okay, fine. But the NFL is intense. They are obsessed. You cannot have. So we had to travel sometimes with 2 and 3 pieces of the exact same gear. I had to send 2 full cases of an entire broadcast setup. And this is just for AM radio. Because if one went bad, he literally just had to throw it away and turn on the new one. He had to, I mean, it was amazing the amount of gear he had to travel with for NFL. And there's like maybe 20 games a year. And I mean, if you're lucky, Super Bowl, right? Which we were one time in San Diego. But with baseball, I think there's like, I mean, including, I don't know, spring training. I want to say there's like 100 road games that you do with baseball. Anyway, so you're moving. I mean, we used to fly through gear. I would just be like, But anyway, he would always have a fairly inexpensive mic, we called it the crowd mic. And he would just like plug it in and basically just sit it there. He would like throw it on the desk, or he would like throw it over a chair or out into the, to get the crowd noise, because the mics we use. I mean, for example, right now, you have no idea I have a fan blowing on me, because I have this, I have a windscreen. This is acoustically transparent, but I also have a business card inside of this, because this dynamic microphone has there's a voice coil on either side. One of them obviously is a lot more sensitive than the other. And so, you can't hear, like, in other words, if someone were to stand over there and talk to me, I mean, you can't hear me when I'm that far away. So, multiply that by an even better, like really good, expensive microphone for radio. And you can't hear the crowd. You can't hear them cheering. You can't hear when there's a home run. We go, oh my God, he's got a home run. And there's fireworks going off. And then in the background, you hear, no, you got to crank that up, dude. So, yeah, so we always had to have the background noise. Completely agree, Dana. Oh, cool. Be fun to hang out, Scott. Won't see you, LC here tonight then. Ah, got it. Middle, just a little breather. All right, good for you. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I could, because I'm trying to think. Wow, it's 3 hours from the West Coast. I guess that's right. I didn't remember. I thought it was 2 hours, but how about basketball? It must be harder games on the road too. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, right? And you got to bring gear. A lot of times, it depends what station you're from. If you're from like the absolute, flamethrower #1 sports station in the market, then you're in that market. Usually you're down on the floor. And a lot of times that can have a real detrimental effect on the gear. But depending upon the arena, then you would be up, it's air conditioned, and usually there's like a guy that like carries your equipment there sometimes. And there's always another radio station. There's always like 10 other radio stations like right next to you. Sometimes there were podcasts, and so if you run on they're like, oh my God, I just broke my last mic cable. And, you basically just say that. And there's like a whole hallway of guys are like, got one. There you go, buddy. Yeah, go for it. Oh my God, my SM58. I just dropped it in a Diet Coke. Don't worry about it. How many you need, especially the guys from like, the New York station, Los Angeles, that sort of thing. And then there would always be like a Mexican station because we were with, so there would always be like all the sports teams that were basically in Southern California. They would have a Mexican station that would effectively be doing the exact same thing, just pretty much whatever you were doing in Spanish. And unfortunately, they didn't have a real great budget. And so a lot of times, my guy would tell me, he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to need another microphone. I'm like, why? What'd you do with the other one? I gave it to the guys over on front. I'm like, that's cool. Okay, I know Chip. He's the chief. That's cool. He's a good guy. Don't worry about it. We'll pay him $100 for a microphone. Big deal. But same for the Vice. You have a tight pickup mic for commentary. Yeah, and 2 room noise microphones, actually. Yeah, one for the crowd and one for the cage ring that gets mixed to the background. Yeah, it makes absolute sense. You know what I got to do? I got to take a break. In fact, I need some more light. So this side is so that's where, what's Pigeon Cam look like? Let's take a look at Pigeon Cam in the night. I hope it's still working. There. Oh, wow. That's pretty good. It's actually much darker than that. So that's a pretty decent. That's one of those Chinese versions of a GoPro. That's the SJ Cam. And so I'm very pleased that it did that. I didn't know it had that degree of pseudo white balance. So anyway, actually, I'm going to leave that there for a second. I'm going to go up. I'm going to get up into the kitchen. I got to move one of my soft boxes over to give me some fill light on the right side of my face. I got to close the curtains, and I got to get another 100. So I'll be back in 3 seconds. Okay, maybe more. All right. So in theory, this this softbox that I moved over to my right, ideally, it's going to give me enough light on the. Yeah, you can see a little bit of the shadow in the background, but that's fine. This is a lot better than certainly many of the others I've done before. So anyway, thanks for sticking through the break, guys. I'm sorry I didn't actually anticipate breaking this evening. What are we at? Like 2 hours? Yeah. So we're 2 hours. I figured I'd go maybe 2, maybe 3 hours. Yeah, it's only 7 o'clock here, and my plan, as I mentioned, if you don't know, is to have a Schweppes now. LiveMyAssOff.com, brought to you by Schweppes Manow. Nothing says Schweppes Manow like, well, a white guy saying Schweppes Manow. And tomorrow I kind of want to make the most of the day. So I don't know if I'm going to catch the 6 o'clock or the 7 o'clock in the morning train. But I definitely want to get up to, I definitely am going to get up to IUTF before noon. And I think the train ride's only like 45 minutes. So the last time I looked, I'll look again this evening, but last time I looked at the SRT website. In fact, I tell you what, if you've never seen the SRT website, perhaps you'd like to see the SRT website. So I'll share it with you, ladies and gentlemen. Because that's just the kind of guy I am. I like to share, because I'm an only child. False. All right, let's see what we got. Let's do that, and then let's do this, and then let's do boom. And so I'll share with you guys what I'm looking at and what I use to find out. Yeah. So this thing's pretty cool because, and I'll actually put a, and it does come in English. I'm not just using Google Translate for this, which is pretty sweet. It's pretty good. And they keep it fairly up to date. So this has been updated on July 4th of this year, which is not like super, but for the most part, it's good because there were a lot of trains. And let me, hold on. Can you see this? Let me see. Yeah, I think you can see it. So basically, you choose your, origin, which, so for the most part, I'm choosing Bangkok. But there's also another one that goes to, it goes to a lot of places in the South. And I'm trying to think the name. I can't remember. I think it's like Chonburi. Is that right? No, I can't remember. Anyway, it's another option if you're like in Bangkok, basically. And I just took remember when I did that 6-hour live stream? So where I started from there, the train was not leaving from Hua Lumpong. Is that how you say it? I can't remember how you say the main Bangkok train station, but because they list it as Bangkok, they don't list it as like, they don't list it as the name of the MRT stop. But anyway, it's very easy to get to, and at least I think they don't. Let me make sure. No, they don't. All right. So anyway, so Bangkok to UTF, and then I just check. Now you see this? Okay, out of service. When I took that train ride before, when I was cruising down to Patchop Kurikan, and we did the 6-hour live stream, the majority of this was out of service. But anyway, as you can see, and ordinary are basically the trains that I like. They just have, the wooden or the plastic seats or whatever. And, sometimes they're padded, sometimes they're not, but it's okay. And, those are the ones that like are super cheap. And as you can see, it takes about, the ordinary ones take about an hour and 20 minutes. And then these ones take about an hour and 10. And the Special Express is usually the ones that obviously have less stops. They sometimes will have the ability for you to get a air-conditioned car, a reclining seat, and depending, you're not going that far. Like if I were to choose Chiang Mai, then most of the trains that would be available would be the ones that have like the sleeper, like they have the sleeper room where you have your own room, or they have like the sleeper bunk beds, or they have, the reclining chairs. And again, all of those are usually air conditioned, and obviously it's more expensive. But let's say, for the sake of argument, because I like the ordinary trains, or even rapid, really. Yes, so the rapid train takes almost 2 hours. Although this rapid one takes an hour and 37 minutes. That's not too bad. That one takes about an hour and a half. Yeah, about the same. Anyway. Let's say I got to the train station at like 6:40. That's fine. So, so first class is 66 baht. But so that's that's the cost of first class if it was available. But then what you do is you scroll down and you see, okay, this is what's available, basically third class. And then, so these second class ones, I don't believe those are air-conditioned cars. Anyway, so I will be probably going, 15 baht. So I'll probably pay 50 cents to go 71 kilometers. That will likely be the train that I take tomorrow. And, does it not show? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, yeah, okay, tell you what. Let me do this. Let me stop this, but let me share. Yeah, there we go. Let me share the whole window, and then what I'll do that way, when you see this, then you see this is what we were looking at before. Remember? So this, but then what I do is I click on check over here, and then it opens up this tab, and this is what I'm talking about. So it shows you like, okay, look, yeah, first class is only 66 baht. Well, right, but there is no first class. So so this is usually where I usually sit in things like this, where they have like the flat, well, not completely flat, but they're mildly angled. And so anyway, but they say it's going to be 45 baht, but no, it'll actually be 15 baht for me to get where I'm going. Another option, if I do ordinary is usually the absolute cheapest. And yeah, the only thing that's available is bogey third class. And so it's just like one after another of these. But I like it. It's kind of cool. I mean, I guess the novelty would probably wear off if I had to like commute every single day, for God's sake. But for the most part, I'm digging it. Let me take a look at the Express. Let me see if there's any better classes. Isn't that great? I love that stuff, guys. You may not, but I dig it. That's the wrong one. Okay, so there's the Express. And so Bang goes through Bang Su. Of course, everything pretty much goes through Bang Su because that's going to be the new main train station. Oh, and you can take the train up to the airport. And once you get there, you got to walk quite a far away, actually. Anyway, so Bangkok, it departs at 8:20 and it arrives at 9:41 up in Ayutthaya. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll probably go do that. And then I can. It doesn't have a little arrow both ways, so you got to kind of drop down again, which is no big deal when they're both alphabetically so close to each other. But with this one, the returning trains are, as you can see, pretty much all day as well. And so, I can kind of decide, okay, am I really going to stay up here, or am I going to cruise back to Bangkok tonight? Once 5, 6, even 7, o'clock at night. I'm like, well, I don't know. I may stay over one night. So that's neat. So I may go up there for the day. I may go up there for a couple days. I don't know. Haven't totally decided yet, but that is basically what I am planning on doing tomorrow. And I tell you this so that I can hear myself talk. No, that I tell you this because it is now 7 o'clock and we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes. And so I'm not going to, certainly not going to do a marathon live stream tonight. And with it being 7 o'clock, I still got to grab some dinner. So I don't know. I mean, I go to bed early anyway. And now that I've closed the curtains, I hope I remember to bring in Pigeon Cam. Wasn't that great? What does it look like now? I mean, I was absolutely amazed how Pigeon Cam actually showed up. I mean, it is dark outside, and that is not an expensive camera. Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting right there. But anyway, there's not a whole lot of pigeon activity going on when it's dark out like that. I got to get some more lights to get the pigeons a little bit more excited to hang out with me at night. Why is it been more than 72 hours and I am still craving a cigarette? Well, I mean, obviously the first 72 hours is usually, they say, the toughest. I don't know. I mean, well, if you're a smoker, that's why. That's kind of like what guys are, God, I can't believe it. I still want to drink. Like, well, right, you're an alcoholic. That's the way it works. Can't believe I still want to smoke cigarettes. Well, yeah, but you're a smoker. Good for you, Todd. That's friggin' awesome, dude. Wow, it makes plane flights a lot easier too, doesn't it? Yeah. THC. Ha ha ha. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know if you could type all those in. Maybe Google would filter. Goodbye, everyone. Time for coffee. Robert, thank you so much for coming by, man. I really, really appreciate it. Alberto, man, I did that very same trip, Bangkok to Ayutthaya, 1993 on my first road trip to Thailand just after disembarking the plane. Oh, my God, dude, that 93, I can't even imagine. The cars were probably brand new back then because I think they're the same ones from 1963. And, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I dig the train. If you haven't watched this channel before or whatever, you've seen me go down I like the trains, man. They're really cool. Coughing along every morning made me decide to quit cold turkey. Yeah, I get it, dude. When it gets to the point where it's just like, it's really gross. Aloha, Mango. Good to see you, man. 5 a.m. Wow. Yeah, your state is on fire. Totally, dude. I heard of that. My friends are like, but again, I mean, I've lived there before in California. We love our fires and we love our friggin' earthquakes. And it's just, it's just what happens. But unfortunately, it's happening a lot worse, it seems, this year than before. Getting up to go my morning workout before going to work for a 10 to 12 hour day. But soon we'll be living the dream. Well, I'll tell you what, buddy, if you want to live the dream, if you want to grab a smoothie over here, I'm happy to live the dream with you. It's my default setting. I like living the dream. It fits me. You got this. Keep at it, mate. Absolutely, dude. I mean, Todd, if you want people in a room to support you with this, feel free to check in, because I think pretty much everyone who's been on this live stream, this is pretty much the pretty regular Cool Kids table. I don't know if I saw any new people commenting. I saw people come back that I haven't seen in a while, which is good. I saw Tim here, which is good. I saw Gracie, which is awesome. But anyway, yeah, you've got a room full of people that are willing to support you, dude. So anything we can do, that would be amazing. So what's going on here? Okay, that was just line, yeah, shopping, that sort of thing. So, oh, hey, Gracie loves me. So, it's documented. So clearly it's real. But you know what? Actually, it's 2 hours, which is kind of short for me, 2 hours and 20 minutes. But I'm really excited that I did this. It's actually an okay time for me. I'm not usually real tired until about 8:39 kind of thing. But it seemed like, some people that won't normally come on the stream were here, which is great. I'm glad that Tim was here, which is really cool. I'm honored that he came by, actually, because again, I don't want to say like I was doing it for him, but I mean, he was one that recommended it. So I thought, okay, because I really wanted his feedback. I wanted to figure out, okay, well, yeah, I'm doing it now at 11 o'clock in the morning. Is that okay? And he's probably like, well, he could have been like, Mike, it's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. Like, I'm at work, dude. I have a job. Like, don't do your live stream. So I'll be, oh, okay. So you meant 11 a.m. on a Saturday, or whatever. But anyway, I don't know. Selfishly, guys, I love doing these. I mean, it's always cool hanging out with you. I love, reminiscing about certainly good times in my life. I love planning the future about what's going to be happening in the future. Certainly for Todd. I mean, my God, he's got a, you want to talk about living the dream. He quit smoking. He's got a elite visa, and there's a high likelihood that he's going to be coming to Thailand. And if he can, he'll just go to Cambodia. Yeah. We call that freaking awesome. Those are what's referred to as luxury quality problems. Let's just say that. So good on you, Todd. That's really awesome, man. So 78,000 bought for used Reebok pumps. Yeah. So if you don't know, so Caesar and I, we've been going back and forth occasionally on sneakers. And because I had a challenge really finding some Asics that I liked around here. I got some Nikes and I like those quite a bit. Then I absolutely, Dana's wife, Jib, changed my life, because I have been looking for a place to make some custom insoles for me, literally for years being here in Thailand. I found this store. It's called Walking Habit. If any of you guys need insoles that actually have varying heights of arches, and sometimes it's like, well, yeah, I'm not really a medium, I'm a high, I'm not a low, it doesn't work for me, I need the custom molded ones. I kind of fell into that area. So I did two things. I tried ones that they had that were pre-made. So I got a high one, and that's actually really good. And then I had the woman, pardon me, I had the woman do the mold where they like put, they heat up, and then there's like a vacuum thing and it sucks up your feet. And then they mold the thing. You need to stand there for like 6-7 minutes. And so it's basically custom molded insoles. And those were about, let's see, those were about $120, I think. And I'm used to paying about $75, but again, it's like one of those deals. Like, it's not something that all Thai. I mean, they don't sell those at the wet markets. Okay, so I get it. It's more of a specialized item. There's less volume. Fine. And they last easily 2 years. And the ones that I have with me, I've had for more than 2 years for sure. And they're in pretty decent shape. I mean, they're a little worn, but that's the other thing is they're hard plastic, and then they have like a really high quality padding. And it really absorbs the pounding kind of thing. Like if you're doing some serious running, but it's really thin. It's kind of like those yoga mats. Like I've always been surprised, like you lay out a yoga mat and it's really thin, but I've laid down on it and I'm like, God, I feel like I'm getting padding from something that's like, anyway, it's a high-tech polymer. But anyway, so I found a great place that I highly recommend. I've been walking all over the place. My lower back doesn't hurt. I can stand. My lower back doesn't hurt after standing for a while. Walking Habit. If you're in Bangkok, then I highly recommend you go over there. It's easy to find. Just Google Walking Habit. It's over in this mall called, I think it's like, it's like a letter. It's like K something or whatever. But regardless, it's not so much important where you go that you get to the mall. It's more important that you find Walking Habit. They did a really good job. I'm very impressed. So the custom made ones were like, let's say for the sake of argument, $125, probably more. I can't remember. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I feel like I paid, which is not cheap, but it's worth it. Especially considering I only paid $80 for my sneakers, but still. I usually actually have insoles for 2 pairs of sneakers. So it seems like those wear out because of the soles wear out. But the insoles stay really intact. They've got a lot of integrity to them. So, and then I got the pre-made ones and I got a high one. And those were like, I think those were like 1,650 baht. I think the custom molded ones, I think those were 4,250. And then I think the pre-made kind of ones were 1,650. So anyway, Walking Habit, can't say enough good things for them. Check them out. And then I'll follow up on some comments here. We're almost at 2.5 hours, which is awesome. I am going to have a salad tonight, I think. I got one in the fridge that I picked up the other night. And of course, cheeseburger exists. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I did do it for Germany. Absolutely. It was my love of Bavarian Motorworks. Big time. I'm trying to think because I've had 2 Volkswagens. I had two Land Rovers. I had that one. And then I had two. I had 2 BMW. This is over the course of my life, not all at the same time. 2 BMWs. And one, yeah. I mean, if I think, oh no, yeah. And I've had like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'd like to have like 7 Honda products. I've had like 5 Acuras and 6. 5 Acuras and 1 Honda. So obviously that was more, but yeah, I had 2 BMWs. One of them was a convertible. That was great. The other one was 4-door. For some reason, I think I had 2 Mercedes, but I know I had the 450 SL, but I can't remember. I was a fixer-upper. It wasn't like I bought it brand new from the dealer. But that was a cool car. But anyway, my point is I love German cars. They're really great. But the electronics in them, like the sound system, that sort of thing, the Japanese just simply did it better. For the money, when I was comparing like buying a $50,000 Acura and getting a $50,000 BMW, it was like, man, there's just more electronics in the dash in this Acura. I mean, it had an 80 gig hard drive that was solid state hard drive that was into the dash. I could rip all of my music and store it into the car. It had XM. It had all of this stuff that, like, I mean, it literally knew by the GPS signal that I was at the height of the sun based on the time of day. And therefore, it would change the climate control system inside of the car based on the amount of sun that was. I mean, I'm not making it because I had to read this. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Someone told me, oh, yeah, it's got this GPS. I'm like, oh, right. Yeah, you're a salesman, right? And the manual was very thick. And I'm like, this is amazing because I don't even know this exists. And honestly, if I were to get out of this car and get into a $30,000 Acura, I mean, which I did, I never drove around saying, God, the climate in here, it really just is not comfortable. Clearly, it's the angle of incidence coming from that. I mean, but no, I mean, that was just part of what they installed in this. And so that was pretty sophisticated. I was very impressed with that. All of them had the ability to talk to it, right? And even from when's the first one I bought? 2010, I believe I bought my first Acura. No, it was 2009. And and I got a really good deal on it because guess what the whole world was not doing in 2009? Going on vacation and buying brand new cars. Nobody, they were trying to figure out how they're going to get right side up on their house. So I got a really good deal because they had to move this inventory fast. And because I mean, the car had already been there like 90 days. And so they were like, we have made no profit on this, and we need to move the inventory. Otherwise, Acura is going to be like, you're bumming out. So I got that car, and it was the manual and everything. And it had the paddle shifters, and it had the buttons on the dash and stuff. And one of the buttons, you trained it, but it also had a base number of words and phrases and that sort of thing. So, I would get in and press it and say, passenger temperature 71 degrees, bing, and it would do it, The only thing it wouldn't do that I thought would be a real nice touch, I could just push the button and say sunroof, and it would open the sunroof, but it didn't. So instead of pushing the button here, I had to actually raise my arm a full half meter and push the button and open the sunroof. So, but I got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm paying $20,000. I mean, it wasn't just $20,000 for the climate control system. It was all-wheel drive. It was 350 horsepower. It was ridiculous, Very comfortable car, though, and it looked amazing, but it was too much car, and had I to do it over again, trust me, my first $50,000 car would have been a $20,000 car, and I would have taken the rest and been like, you're coming with me to Thailand, extra money. But took me a while to grow up, even after I was old. Jim Carrey, yeah, it was a pretty good movie, right? Thanks, guys. But some of I found out I have a DVT, aka blood clot. So that's another reason to quit. And I promised JC to take care of it. Good for you, buddy. That's outstanding. Oh, Jesus, right? Everything tastes better. Everything tastes better. And I don't know how long it took, but I think after 3 years of not smoking at all, I went in, and for some reason, I know I didn't have pneumonia, but for some reason there was a chest x-ray, and so the doctor came out, and of course, my default setting whenever a doctor would, inquire about my lungs is I would always be like, oh yeah, I'm a smoker, like self-deprecating. And then, so he came out, and they do the thing where they they shove the x-ray up into the top bar thing, and it holds it in front of the fluorescent lights. So he did that. I mean, this was years ago, but, and I said, oh yeah, I know it's probably really my, I was a smoker. And he's like, really? Like, how long ago did you quit? I said, well, I don't know. It's probably been 3, not 4 years, but maybe 4 years almost. He's like, yeah. He says, we don't like to tell patients this, especially before they quit smoking, but the body has quite the ability to rebuild itself. And, so I was very pleased with that my lungs, and again, that was in my 30s, right? So it's a little bit easier. I mean, if I had been smoking, if I smoke all the way through my 70s and then they do a chest x-ray at 75, they'll be like, yeah, you're going to die. You are a smoker. But anyway, so I'm pleased that I've sort of given that up, this is really nice. I absolutely do smoke cigarettes occasionally. I will have so if you walk down the street, don't think I'm a hypocrite if all of a sudden you see me having one cigarette, because the likelihood of you seeing me having a second cigarette, that's very low. But every now and then, and it's I don't know, it's maybe stress. Not that I'm really stressed, for God's sake. I live on vacation, but every now and then I'll have one, and then every now and then I'll have one, and then I'll smell my hand afterwards and be like, oh my God. I mean, that's enough for me. I'm not addicted to the nicotine like I was when I was a heavy chain smoker, But yeah, it's weird. And thank God I don't do that with alcohol. Yeah, well, I only drink. No, I cannot ingest any. But yeah, good for you. I don't know, dude. I just want to give you a big hug. You're so awesome. Congratulations. King says, I'm trying to hit a different time tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bangkok time live stream, which is the reason my buddy is only available at that time. He's in Korea from Canada and brings a huge Facebook audience. Oh, outstanding. Good for you, dude. Yeah, you're doing a lot of collaboration. That's cool. I like doing that, but I also really like doing these by myself and just hanging out with you guys. And I really wish I was in a studio too by myself. That would be fun. And maybe that'll happen in the future. So yeah, that's awesome, dude. I mean, I'm subscribed, so I get all the notifications when you go live. So I'm totally good. Don't inhale and take vitamins. Oh my God. Genius move. And with that, with Caesar's encouragement for all of us to take vitamins, I'm going to say it's Mike's from livemyassoff.com saying I hope you guys are living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, you're doing it wrong. I really hope I can hang out with you guys again really soon. I don't know when my next live stream is going to be. It's probably going to be in the next couple of days. But if you don't see a notification for one, do know that Jeremy and I are going to be going live on Saturday this weekend. and then he's going to have his own his thing on Sunday because I'm busy Sunday working with Dana on the Bangkok Strange podcast. So with that, I hope you guys are living the dream. It's Mike's from livemyassoff.com. If you want, buymeasmoothie.com. And other than that, I will talk to you guys soon.